All right, somebody talking, is that Lori? We're going to ask everyone to please stand, and we call this meeting to order. At this time, we have a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll ask Councilman Kim Minke to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You will be seated. I want to welcome each of you all here to the Georgetown City Council meeting for Monday, February the 10th, 2025. Our objective here tonight is to conduct business for the city of Georgetown. We will follow the agenda as written. We remind you that it's a code of decorum that we expect each of you to follow, and we will follow as ordered. At this time, Madam Clerk, if you will call the roll.
Mrs. Wilkins-Brown?
Here.
Mr. Crisp?
Present.
Mrs. Hambrick? Present. Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Minke?
Present.
Mrs. Leslie Mitchell? Here. Mrs. Tingle-Sames? Here. Mr. Stone?
Here.
Thank you. At this time, I need a motion to accept the minutes for January 27th, 2025.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Minke. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second made by Ms. Brent. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the minutes, motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, those opposed say likewise. Council, you should have received the receipt of check register. If you have received those, please raise your hand. Let the record reflect that all have received. At this time, we have public comments. Remember, remind you that public comments, you will have 4 minutes to state your concerns to the council, and our Madam Clerk will time you. At the end of 3 minutes, she will inform you that 3 minutes has elapsed, and you will have 1 more minute to complete that. And we ask at the end of that 4 minutes that you take your seat to allow others that want to speak and be respectful of people's and that are here in attendance time. At this time, Mr. Steve Glass wants to talk about sanitation.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to share with you a personal experience of mine that sums up this sanitation problem. 1st of January, some people moved in 2 doors down from me, and anyway, after they moved in, I noticed there was some boxes and some other stuff, you know, we usually have from a move-in, and some old shelving or what have you. So they had that sitting there, and then they had their garbage can full of stuff too. So anyway, on sanitation day, Republic picked up the Kirby, but they didn't pick up anything else. So I thought, well, anyway, a few days later, I went down, knocked on the door, told them that I don't think that the garbage people will pick up the rest of that unless you have it in a Kirby. So I said, I don't think all that will fit in yours, so I've always got excess capacity in mine, so I'll bring mine down and you can fill it up too. So anyway, took it down there, and they filled it up and got both garbage cans full, and next sanitation day they picked it up. So what this demonstrates to me is the issue is not with Republic, it's with the city policy, because before the landfill closed, we were getting service from Public Works, which was top quality. I mean, they picked up everything, no matter where it was, whether it was in a garbage can or not. And then after the fiscal court decided to shut our landfill down, we were stuck with Republic and their service. And I think Republic is doing the job that they're supposed to, because the contract, I think, pretty much says that everything's going to be in and a Kirby. And we as residents deserve better. Y'all didn't push back at all. I think there are five of the 8 of you were on council. When the landfill was closed, there was no pushback from the mayor or the council, either one, on how that would affect the residents. And then you hurriedly hired Republic, and the reason the contract's not very clear or is vague is because I think it had to be. In order to keep the price from going up more than what we were currently paying, they had to agree to a contract that basically does what it does now. So blaming Republic, I mean, there are some issues off and on, but it's the city policy with respect to garbage pickup's the problem. And I think we deserve better. I think we need to have everything picked up just like we did before. I don't understand why we brag on our town and talk about all the tourism when we're quick becoming known as Georgetown, the place where they can't get their garbage picked up. And that's going to affect people's attitudes. Tourists come down my street, see a bunch of junk sitting in front of the house. I see people put old mattresses out, furniture lays there forever. That needs to be picked up by the city. Anyway, just wanted to share that with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Next, Mr. Dan Holman on infrastructure.
Hi, Dan Holman, Georgetown. Yeah, just real quick on the garbage. I agree with that the public works service used to be very good. I remember you'd call them and they'd answer and they could address the issue right away. They do miss my street we're the last of the route apparently, and sometimes, like Karen had mentioned last time, they leave in the middle of the route and they've missed our street a few times, our little section. And you call them and their call center's in Arizona or something. And like, I just hang up the phone after 10 minutes because I'll just wait till next, it's hard to get hold of. So it's clear that they're a corporation, and they're kind of serving, they're worried about Shelbyville. Like if there's something in Shelbyville that they need a truck there, they're going to take the Georgetown truck and send them there. So like you call them, they might not even have a truck here. Like one time I called, it was Friday afternoon by the time you realize they're not coming, and then they couldn't even schedule anyone till Tuesday. So anyway, that's not that. So yeah, we do have problems, and it just feels better when the city is running it. It feels like they care more about the citizens, and I don't think the corporation is just ever going to match our citizens. I want to talk about infrastructure, which that's very important in cities. That's one thing that you all manage is like roads and bridges and just keeping things running. I'm personally interested, and maybe I've spoken before about stuff like this, just to explain, like just the way the city is laid out and how you move around the city and how things function, like from a city planning perspective. And pedestrianism is important. So all these things. So 3 infrastructure projects to talk about real quick. That it would be great if you all could at least, and by the way, welcome to the new council, and you all been doing a great job of having discussions, and you're participating and asking questions, and that's really good to see. You're intelligent people. It's good to see your thoughts and ideas and all this. So here's 3 questions. If it would be great, maybe not tonight, but maybe if you all could help get on the schedule at some point to discuss. So the Bridge Street Bridge is a bridge in Georgetown that has just been neglected. I think it was, as far as I know, it was permanently closed the last time in 2015, off and on before that. But for at least the last 10 years, it's been closed and just kind of neglected. But every single day, pedestrians walk across that bridge because our town is kind of divided by the railroad and the Elkhorn Creek. So if you want to get from downtown to Rural King and Walmart and all that, there's like one way to go, which is under that little overpass, which is crumbling, and it's not safe. So people do cross that Bridge Street Bridge every single day, and something needs to be done with it. And if it's removed, it needs to be replaced like right away. Have something ready. So at least a pedestrian bridge. And there's these, we should hopefully look into prefabricated pedestrian bridges and cost of that and just lay one in there. Related to that is the Legacy Trail, which is coming through Georgetown. Like the funding and the planning is done to get it to Lemons Mill School, I think by maybe another year. So the Legacy Trail, hopefully y'all can look at that. And related to that, there's a lot of little pedestrian bridges that are going to be needed because it crosses over and back the Elkhorn Creek several times. Also related to the Bridge Street Bridge, it goes through that same area. So those two things are related. Pedestrian bridges are needed for both. The third thing that would be great to get on the agenda at some point is stormwater. Late last year, Strand had come and given a report, and Todd mentioned that he wanted to see them come back to the new council. And I think the four of you that were on the council agreed, basically just bring that same presentation back early in this year and talk about it. So that would be great just to at least see if you all want to do that or not. Stormwater, especially, like I live in this Broadway area and we get flooded, and we've been waiting for years to know if the city is going to do this or not. And then one final thing, how do you pay for infrastructure? It would be great if maybe the county would help participate. So if you all would at least ask the county about engage them with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. All right.
I didn't get here in time to stand up. Is there any chance that I can speak a bit?
Yes, come on.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Right now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You have 4 minutes.
4 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm Stephen Price, born and raised here in Georgetown. And I've run for the mayor's office. I've run for judge executive, run for the town council. And my platform has always been to promote pedestrianism and crop work as a much better alternative to what we see developing in Georgetown, which is a commerce and a production entirely dependent upon motor transport. And motor transport is not necessary. It produces nothing but motion. I had a good meal tonight. Somebody had to produce that meal. That's an essential. Somebody had to make the cotton, grow the cotton so I could wear this sweatshirt. Somebody has to raise the timber so we could be in this wooden room. Food, fiber, timber, essential. Motor transport is not essential. And Martha Lane Collins saw to it that we would acquire and inherit a commerce based on the luxury and the creature comfort of motor transport. And I ask you to join me in resisting any further concessions to motor transport, and to join me in raising a garden, to set an example for your neighbors. Show them that you can raise a garden, and that if you can, your neighbors can. And to the extent that you and your neighbors and I are busy in the garden, we don't need any kind of transport. We don't need motor transport. We don't even need to walk, because we got what we need right there at home, which is food, fiber, and timber, all of which we can raise on any piece of ground here in Georgetown. And I got hold of this magazine. This is published by the Kentucky Association of Rural Electric Co-ops. It's a Kentucky Living, published monthly. If you ever, it's always interesting. Just read you a statistic here. This is an article titled Kentucky by the Numbers. Kentucky by the Numbers, it says. Time's up?
No, you got 1 more minute.
I'm sorry?
1 more
1 minute? Thank you. Scott County projected to have the state's biggest population growth in coming decades, an increase of 79.5% by 2050. 79.5% increase over the, I guess that means over the present population by 2050. And I don't know, can't believe everything you read, but that's what the Rural Kentucky Association of Rural Co-ops says in their magazine. The reason I'm here is to ask you to join me, prevail upon the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Kentucky Division of Water, to not demolish the dam at Great Crossings, because one of these days, if we all go back to raising crops, we're going to need a place to grind wheat to make flour. Bread is the staff of life. You go back, you study the history of civilization all the way back to Mesopotamia. Bread is the staff of life. We need a mill, we need a grindstone at Great Crossing, and to have the grindstone,
Thank you, Mr. Glass.
we need the dam.
Mr. Price, thank you. All right. Okay. Moving right along. Next, we have the event applications. And we have Southern Knights of Central Kentucky Car Cruise in.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good evening.
Been a year since I've seen you. I'm here tonight to support the Southern Knights of Central Kentucky. The last 2 years, y'all have allowed us to do cruises downtown here. And we would love to come back again this year, but we're only asking for three times. We're asking for April, September, August, and September. April, we would like to do it from like 4 to 7 on the 19th. In August, 5 to 8, that's August the 16th. And September the 20th, 5 to 8. We would also like to ask, as we did last year, to go to Mulberry, because we've had over 150 cars. We have had, the TV station here did a little thing promoting Georgetown, the cruise in and all. We also had another live event with somebody that had the little thing over in the air, putting that out, and that was all over Facebook. So, but we're back again to see if you all will allow us to do this.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we table this until we get our special events ordinance that would eliminate, right now, we're works on that. Not sure how long that's going to take us to get. You can get with Lori Saunders and go down to the back parking lot and work on having the events down there at the new pavilion. So, but my motion is to table this until, or postpone this.
Okay.
Until such time that we get better understanding on the
You have heard the
special
motion.
events ordinance.
You have heard the motion by Mr. Stone. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Hampton. Are there further questions and/or comments?
I have a comment to make about that. Since the last council meeting, Willow, Hambrick, and I have talked about the different things that we've talked about in our discussions here, and we have tried to put a pencil to that so that we could move forward with an ordinance. And we hope tonight at our discussion, we would have enough information that we could all decide that here are the things we'd like to see within that ordinance, and then bring it back for a first reading at the next council meeting. So it's not like it's pushed. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
So it's not like we're pushing it way down the road.
Right.
But we do hope by the next council meeting to have more information. And if everything goes well, then we could vote on that at the following council meeting. So it would be in time, it would be pushing it for your first event.
Okay.
But it would be in time to deal with that.
Okay, that'll be fine.
Another comment, Mayor.
What? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go
There
ahead.
were a couple things that were not quite accurate in the application as well. There was a date discrepancy, so you might want to look at that. I think it said the 18th or August 6th. Yeah.
It has April 20th, but on the proposed date, it says April 19th.
19th.
It's the 19th, yeah, April 19th.
And is the insurance,
We've got the insurance, she's got,
Okay.
yeah, Tracy's got all of that.
and the first one, April 20th, is that a Sunday?
No, it's April the 19th,
Oh, it's the 19th.
19th, it's on a Saturday.
Okay,
It's got April 20th listed, which is
Okay.
a Sunday.
okay. But you want it on the 19th?
On a Saturday, yes,
Okay.
ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Thank
And
you.
then you were talking about, well, there was 4 dates on there.
There's
There's
April,
4
July, August, and September.
And there's August the 16th on there.
Okay, that'll be
You said
fine.
you just wanted 3.
Yeah, just
On
the 3, because I
application,
don't want to interfere with what Tracy's doing, because me and her have worked together before, and she has a good thing going, and we just, we don't want to get into the middle of what she's doing. Yeah,
It probably needs to be corrected on the
It-
application.
yeah.
It's in the area that says, the first area of the dates where it says, if yes, indicate the requested streets and time. The dates listed there are not the dates that you said.
I may have looked
It's-
on,
it's
but whatever it
fine.
is, it's on a
When-
Saturday,
When you bring
yes.
it back, just,
Yes, that's no problem.
yeah.
Yes, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right,
And
so,
we'll see you all at the next meeting. Thank you.
so the motion's been made and properly second. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of tabling this signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Item B is Best of the Bluegrass Festival of the Horse, and I think Lori's going to be up here. I think she's doing B, C, and D. Am I
Quite a few.
mistaken?
You got it.
You got them all right there, and she's going to
Yes.
talk about those and a little bit there. So Lori, who is our Director of our Tourism for Georgetown, Scott County.
Yes, so we will start with Best of the Bluegrass Festival of the Horse. You will notice that there are 2 applications. One that is for the actual closure of Main Street. The second one is for the parades, because that route is much different than our vendor setup and where we have all of our other activities. The chili cook-off will begin on September the 4th. We normally leave the streets closed until that Sunday. So from 2 p.m. on September 4th until about 9-ish on September the 7th is what it will be, from Mulberry to Main, the intersection of Main and Broadway. However, the City Hall parking lot for the carnival, we generally have to start closing that down on the Tuesday prior, so that we can get all of the rides and things in. So that would be a little bit earlier, the September 2nd date. I did put, because there's some concern about what we'll be able to use with the pavilion being in place back there. Last year, we used in between the county attorney's office and the justice building, and we used the gravel lot. This year, we were hoping to go back to behind the city hall where the pavilion is. The Johnny White from Fox Creek Amusements is in Florida, so he has not been able to come up and see how big that pavilion is yet. Of course, he would like to have all 3 spaces if he could, but I have told him we have to leave a parking lot, one of them, at least one of them. But when he gets back from Florida, I would like for him to come up and take a look and decide which would be the locations that we would have it. But for now, I am just trying to get those secured dates and those locations secure, and I'll come back and let you know exactly which lots the carnival will be in. I don't want anybody to jump in front of me and get that festival date, because if they do, there won't be a festival. I'm not in a position where I can move the festival a week behind or a week forward. We have 90 vendors that we count on every year, and they are on a festival schedule. So if we lose that date, we lose the festival. So just want to make sure I've got that date secured for us. You want me to just do them all? Or you want to do them individually?
Let's just go ahead and do it
You want to start with
individually.
questions?
Let's
with
do it
those?
individually here, okay?
Okay.
So I need a motion for the Best of the Bluegrass and Festival of the Horse and Parade.
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. Sams. Do I have a second? Second made by Ms. Mitchell. Are there further questions and/or comments?
I have a comment. if
Yes,
it's okay.
ma'am. Go ahead.
In this case, it might seem like that we're not doing exactly the same thing with the lady who was here before. But these are, when we talked in our discussion, we talked about the ones that are sponsored or important to the city that we have done for years. And we talked about the fact that these would run as they normally did.
Okay.
So that's why I think that it's okay to go ahead and consider this tonight.
Okay, thank you. You know, we are part of the city and the county through an interlocal agreement. So any events that we put on are sanctioned by the city and county and are part of the city and county. So thank you for recognizing that, Tammy. I appreciate that.
All right, are there any other further discussion and/or question? All those in favor of the motion for the Best of the Bluegrass / Festival of the Horse and Parade signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise. Next, item C, party at the pavilion.
Yes, party at the pavilion. You know, in years past, we have always had it at the square. And we have decided that with the pavilion being down there, that's a great opportunity to host some of the concerts there. Originally, if you look at the application, was prepared to do every one of them down at the pavilion. Within the last few days, I've had several of the businesses ask me if I would reconsider, that would I consider at least doing a couple up here on the square, which I knew which two they meant. One, when you have over 1,000 people in your 1,000 people at your concert for Memorial Weekend, because Horsey 100 is here. That's a great opportunity for our downtown to be flourishing with visitors and visitors going into their shops and into their restaurants. So they've asked us to reconsider that one. In addition, as you all know, Honeychild brings a huge crowd, and that is how we're wrapping up. So those are our two big bashes that we have, what we consider our kickoff to the concert series, and then our kind of our back to school bash when it's the August one. So if you all don't mind, I'd just like to secure the dates to know that I have them on the table so that no one can jump in. I will meet with the downtown businesses on March 6th, and then I'll come back and let you know what their suggestion is and if most are in agreement to keep two up here. I did go back and take a look at the survey, and 52% of our downtown businesses did say that they like the concerts on the square. So maybe we can have a win-win and do two on the square and two downtown or at the pavilion. But I did want to make sure that I got those dates.
So May.
Oh, May 24th, Players Club, which is really fun. June 21st is Marshall. He does Little Leonard Skinner. July 19th, we're actually going to have 3 bands that are going to be up there. And August 16th is Honeychild.
But the May and the August are the ones you want to do.
Would be the 2 that we would be looking at to do on the square. And if you all recall, that, like I said, I will come back with the definite dates, but just to keep in mind, we try to be very good friends to our neighbors downtown. We do not close our streets on Broadway and intersection of Broadway and Main and Hamilton until about 4:30, 5 p.m. That still gives us time to get all of our vendors in there, and we close the square at 2 because that's where we place the stage. So we will be very thoughtful with what our downtown businesses request of us if we do go to the square.
All right.
Lori,
Yes.
for those dates that you're having it on the square,
Yes.
is there any activity at the pavilion on those dates,
No.
given the number of people that are in town and those kinds of things?
Not that I am aware of at this time. I've not had anybody request either one of those dates for downtown, but I tell you what, she's gone. Well, fiddlesticks. I was going to say, boy, that would have been a nice time and place to do the car show while we were having our concerts. So maybe when she comes this evening, I'll be able to mention that to her. But that would be fun if we could add that on and give our visitors and locals alike more to do. So,
All right, I need a motion.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Hampton. Do you have a second? Second made by Mr. Minke. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor for item C, which is the party at the pavilion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Item D, home for the holiday parade.
yes. So the Christmas parade is always the first Saturday in December. This year, that will be December the 6th, and it starts at 6 p.m. We technically do not close down the streets. It's more the parade starts, we roll, and then they open back up. However, we do close the square at 2 p.m. because we have vendors that go into there. So I am requesting that the square be closed at 2 p.m. and that I have the services that I need, police, fire, and public works to help us out with the parade. I will make note that for the Festival of the Horse and the holiday parade, our insurance only runs on the fiscal year. So I have submitted our current insurance with these, but on July 1, I will be able to send you all the insurance that is for that fiscal year. Just to make note of that, if you look in your packet and wonder why I've sent that, I just want you to see I got it.
Mayor, I just have a point of information.
Okay.
Is the square the counties or the cities?
It's actually a city parking lot. I think only location that is the
It's just the
counties is
sidewalks
around
the
courthouse,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a motion,
I'll make a motion.
okay? Motion made by Ms. Brent and second by Ms. Mitchell. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise.
Hey, I'll see you back in March to give you exact dates for where the concerts are going to be held. Thank you.
All right, we have a add-on event, which I think Madam Clerk sent to you all a copy of this event. This is a very unusual request that is being asked of this council. To give you a little bit of historical background with this, and I'll let Mr. Barry Tilford come up in a few minutes and talk about this in just a minute. He's going to come in and give information about what he's asking this council to do. But to give a little content to this, in the past, the city and tourism, we fund tourism to actually market and do what we need for downtown. Anything to do with tourism, we let them do that, and for downtown, and their corresponding with that is done through them, and of course, Lori takes care of that. There was an agreement made years ago because of the problem was they were inundated with all kinds of requests for people to do things downtown, and some of it was not tourist related. So they had to come up with some way of an agreement with the city and tourism to say, only really tourism type events will be put down or placed in for downtown marketing. So that being said, Mr. Barry Tilford for Echoes of Ancestry, is that correct? Of Keeneland and Georgetown Museum, they're coming up. I think who's with you is Mr. Terry Thomas, who's bringing out some information. But I'll let them go ahead and tell you why they are here. And then from that point on, we'll be able to have any questions like we have anywhere else. All right? Mr. Tilford?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Laurie, we've worked together on several successful events. I just didn't know who you was today with your glasses on. Oh, okay. But as Laurie knows, I have a vast amount of experience working with Las Vegas tourism, Atlantic City, even LA on several events. I used to promote Don King's championship fights. So we know what we're doing, Laurie knows that. We've got the record for HBCU BET Classics, over 29,000 people, and about 5 other events that goes around those. But we've been able to be successful in Georgetown and Lexington with our horse documentaries and our event that's coming up, which is the Keeneland. We got a partnership with Keeneland Racetrack and their library, and they have their exhibit coming to the museum, which we made the initial partnership and put everybody together with the museum. There are some of the, if you look at the information here, Scott County is home to the greatest trainers and horsemen in the world. I know you heard of Oliver Lewis in the Kentucky Derby. That horse and that jockey ran a horse that was trained by Ansel Williamson. And he's from Scott County. I don't know if you've seen the blue horse in Lexington, all over Lexington. That's Harry Lewis's horse, Scott County. We've got a brochure I got over there that has all this information. And so King was so excited to come with their exhibit to Georgetown, Scott County. And we want to welcome them because we're filming 2 different documentaries. One of them was featured at the Horse Parks Theater. One of them is The Soul of Thoroughbred Racing, which is co-produced by us and PBS film director. The other one is Stone Soul Derby, and I think you've seen that. And we're kind of negotiating with ESPN. But all these things are taking the life out of Georgetown. The producers are here. It's spirited by my parents, who both have served on council. But we want to do a marquee exhibit and marquee display for the next 2 weeks, so we can put the likes of the banners and the posters. We've spent about $1,200–1,500 getting them designed and produced. And we wasn't in stitch like we've been on everything else. We'll make sure we get with Lori. But we stepped some ways in some capacities when the museum got involved in Kingland. But we wanted to have the opportunity and the clearance to put the banners up for 2 weeks. And I don't know if you know DeMonte Dawson, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a UK All-American. His granddad is one of the best blacksmiths that came out of Georgetown out in the country. He's listed. This Terry, everybody sees Terry coming around. But him and Johnny, his brother, come from a line of trainers that are top in the country. They've done the Derby horses, the Triple Crown horses, etc. But if I sit and told you about everybody, just read our information. But we need an opportunity to get a clearance to put the banners up. We're having an event on the 28th at the museum that will feature the curator and the librarian from Kingland. Other families are coming from all over the country to come back and pay homage to these great African Americans that are from Georgetown. And then you got your avid, it's not just a black thing, it's a sport. Some of these guys had their own sports car. If you go back and do your research, and at one time it was only horse racing and baseball were the only sports. And these guys were the king of the hills.
All right, so, let me get my mic on. So you have heard what he's asking. Now, I'm gonna make sure I understand what you're asking, Mr. Tilford, is that you want the banners to be hung up downtown, is that correct?
That's it.
Okay, and you're gonna do that for 2 weeks, is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay, so that's what he's asking of this council. So, again, I need a motion, or prior to that, do I have a motion?
Does that
Good.
not come under, question, does that not come under tourism? Or tourism to make the decision for or against?
Well, putting the banners up, I would say that, if it requires us to do that, I don't know. Lori, I'm gonna let you come up here and answer that question, because I'm gonna yield to you on that.
Certainly. So when we took over the Main Street program, which is Celebrate Georgetown for us, the Main Street program actually oversaw the banners, and tourism paid for the banners that would go downtown. So when the change was made and it came over to the tourism side, then we started rotating and deciding which banners went up and when they went up. We got inundated, so many times about requests from all kinds of different organizations, whether it was autism awareness, breast cancer awareness, Elizabeth's Village, Stop the Violence for domestic abuse. It just became overwhelming, and we made the decision, working with Mayor Prather at the time, I believe Devin was there also, that as bad as we would love to support all of those organizations, because we think they're all great causes, we could not ask Public Works to constantly be going up and down a ladder to change out the banners. So at that point, we made the decision with the mayor, with Mayor Prather and the council members, that we would just say no to any banners that were not Georgetown Scott County Tourism's, one that was for a specific event that we were possibly putting on, like the Festival of the Horse banners, or it would be the Scott County Schools or Georgetown College. And we have stayed pretty clear on that and have, for the last few years, have just always said no, because we knew that once we opened the door, we would get inundated again. So, and I hope, Barry, you understood why my answer was to your email was, we don't allow other banners, but ultimately, it is the council's decision. That is just our policy that we have kept over these years, and it's the one that my commission has told me to honor. So, does that answer?
Yes, thank you.
So, Lori, just another quick question, if I may, Mayor.
Okay?
So I understand, at least in some of the information that we had received, that understanding that activity or that agreement, but then perhaps there were some things that you had suggested to be able to accomplish similar goals for this activity. Could you share what those are?
Yes, that we would be happy to post anything on our social media. We'd be happy to make sure that that is in our local paper and pay for that ad, because we think it's a really important one, and we do have grants available where we can help out with marketing and advertising, but most importantly, getting that on our social media, making sure that our downtown businesses have posters so that they can support these activities that are being proposed. So we had several mechanisms where we could help in other ways.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have anything? Yes.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, the educational component, like she said. Now, you got to remember, this is the library, Kingland Library. And we have a cross communication going with the, because we're going to leave the display up. Kingland's going to leave it up in the library, so Scott County Schools can do day trips in there. So everything around what we're doing is history. And it's a sport, but it's history. It's a history component. That's what we do documentaries for. And so it doesn't, we don't want to get a special treatment because we don't ask something special. We want you to treat special people in a marquee way. They champions.
Okay. All right. So, is there any more discussion?
Yeah, I just have a quick comment. Regardless of the decision tonight, this might also be a great film to show in conjunction at the Festival of the Horse.
Oh, no
since
doubt.
it's horse related. So just a quick note on that as well.
Yeah, we have like both of them, but we featured them. She's seen one of them. We featured Soul of Thoroughbred Racing at the theater out at the horse park, and we got another segment coming. That's the one that PBS is co-producing. And Stone Soul Derby, we got the second tier of that in place. It's in the can right now.
That's great.
All right. Okay.
And let me just say this: we have a TV special that's coming out. When?
February 17th.
They just came and recorded us, Fox TV. So they were impressed. They're looking, it's gonna come out, and there's a major network that's called me. I don't want to shoot our, we don't want to shoot all our steam out of our engine, but, because there's a major network that wants to do a special pre-derby, but I want them to do it here in Georgetown at the horse park.
Okay, I think.
And this, when we shoot this with the banners up, you can't get better marketing for Georgetown. And I know you get 1,000 people downtown, this and that. I'm talking about reaching millions.
All right, at this time, before we do any more discussion here, I think you had go ahead.
I have a question and then maybe a compromise. Thank you. I have a question and maybe a compromise on this, because I think that I can kind of feel that maybe the council wants to do it, but they're hesitant to open up
I understand.
a new direction. So you said this was going to be taking place at the museum.
Yeah, on February the 28th.
Okay. Could we not, on a compromise, maybe just put up, because there's at least a couple of places right there at the museum to put up the banners, that we put a couple of banners up at the museum
I'm all
where the
about compromise.
event
That's why I'm here.
is going? Well,
My
are we talking
parents
about
sit over there with you.
Are
That's
we
why I'm
talking
here.
about 2, or are we talking about all of Main
Well, there's
Street?
8 total.
Okay. Well,
And that's
there's-
the only problem, because all these, we had to get a clearance from these families, to actually put their likeness on the banner.
Okay, so
So-
two probably won't work for you. 2 probably won't work then for
Yeah.
you unless you put the rest of them on the side of the building, and that's, I can't authorize that. All
But
right.
we have a regular Soul of Thoroughbred Racing shield, and we have I can see that, but you know, it's just we're not taking advantage of the opportunity we put in place, and we've made the banner, so we'll be back next year right here asking you to do it again, because I think they was well done. I think they're for a great purpose. And this is a activation for our event at the horse park. Come pre-derby events we do there. We do the biggest fish fry in Scott County and Fayette County out there, and that's that same weekend we'll do that.
Well, hopefully if the council
Yeah.
doesn't vote in your favor, maybe you can hang those 8 on the museum, on the outside of the
We
museum.
thought about that.
That would be,
That might work.
can you check
That
with
may-
And that might soften up the opportunity after we see the photo ops and get back in Pop's magazine like we was for our last event. And we aggressive about marketing and putting our information, and we're great with Lord. Don't get it wrong.
Well, you know,
I-
big cities, I mean, that's how if they're having a major event at the museum,
Yeah.
their big posters.
We were
on
already
there.
around about 6,000. We've got about $70,000 invested in Georgetown, just with all the activations, the symposiums, all the people we've brought in, the speakers from UK, from Nicodemus, Kansas. We've got a partnership with Nicodemus, Kansas. Matter of fact, while we was doing this project, we ran into a relative. My son ran into him on the internet. Major TV movie executive. And we've already shot that with Cheryl Marks in Louisville. She came to Louisville, and people came from here, but was part of the exit that went to Nicodemus, Kansas. And then she eventually went to, so what we're trying to do is just connect Georgetown as the hub of African-American history and American history, period.
Okay.
well, I'm personally excited about it. But maybe you can check with the museum to see if they will allow you to put it on the building. Like you said, and then see how it goes when you come back next year.
Yeah.
Too. But what Karen suggested too, maybe putting two
So-
of the planners out, but then putting the rest on the
So we
building.
don't disappoint the ancestors of these folks. We can put, we can find a compromise, and nobody's dropping the ball, and I'm ready to play ball.
But you
know.
gotta check with the museum.
Yes, yes. But she's so happy if you called her right now, she's excited. They just did a special on her. Saturday, wasn't it Saturday?
It was on news.
Yeah, Saturday.
I will also say that there may be downtown businesses, they're private businesses. I know that during lots of different celebrations and events, businesses have put up things in their windows, and that might be another way for you to advertise the event.
So going forward, right now, I'm gonna need a motion on the floor here. I know we had a lot of good discussion, and that's good.
Well,
So,
I'll make a motion. I'll stick my neck out here. I'll make a motion that the council supports your idea of downtown, and maybe next year get deeper in with tourism. But for this year, that we will stick to tourism policy. But we would love to see them put on the museum if we can encourage that in any way.
so,
So is that a motion?
I'll second that.
okay, so, let me make sure I understand. So, the motion is that you want to stay with the policy that's in place, which is not allowing that unless for this year, and, they can look at it and went from there. Is that about what it is?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so I have a motion made by Ms. Sams. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second made by Ms. Brent. Are there other questions and or comments?
No, but he has gotten us very excited about it. Yes.
Well, I got one more item that's part of this whole
Let's vote
piece.
first.
All right, let me get this vote out of the way first, okay, and then let's go for it. All right, so, you have heard the motion. It was a properly made and properly second, and there was no other questions and or comments. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise, and you can get your comment in. Go
All
ahead,
right.
sir.
Well, thank you, everybody, for hearing us out. I had contacted, been back and forth with the emails you saw between us and Kingland, et cetera. And I think somehow it popped up where we was talking about the Juneteenth partnership for the black, for the gospel explosion. We have a partnership that we did last year, I think Mayor and the county judge, with all the Juneteenth activators, and planners in central Kentucky, along with Nicodemus, Kansas, which that's where all these folks have came from. We want to bring all of them. They've got some successful continuity going with their events, especially Midway and Danville's just Harrisburg. They got a big thing going on in Lexington. But all these places that we've had a partnership where they'll participate in bringing all their wherewithal to Scott County on one day, and that's June the 13th. Charles Little, if anybody knows anything about music, he's taught all the some of the top gospel people. And of course, every time we shoot and so for a documentary, it's part of the documentary Soul and Spirit of Gospel Music. And we have all these commitments from choirs from all over central Kentucky, and they have a following. And on June 13th, we contacted, we want to see if we can get that in the barrel. So we can have it loaded, ready to go, so we can get these preachers, parishioners around, and I want to get a local church, black and a white church, so we can get people down there, we can save their souls at the same time, make the cash register ring.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Right,
Chilford. Thank you, Mr. Chilford. All right.
June 13th. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving right on to Mayor's comments. A couple of things I want to state, so bear with me here as I try to be very, straightforward and making sure I give you the correct information and also what you need to know. First of all, with the pending weather coming, and let's keep our fingers crossed that we may not get weather, but just in case we do, there's the prediction of anywhere from 3 to 8 inches. But as all we all know, you probably take a dart and throw it up there and hit right in the middle and be somewhere close. That being said, I want to remind both residents as well as businesses to keep your sidewalks clear. Okay, we had a couple of residents to reach out to me on some of the issues where in the last storm we had, there were some issues, and I think Councilman Stone brought this where he had a couple of people talk to him about where some of the residents and as well some of our business did not clean their sidewalks. So remember, that's what we ask of you as a city code to do that. Make sure we do that, okay? All right, and next thing is Councilman Stone, you had requested that we get the IT get scheduled for updates. We will get those scheduled for you and have that and going forward. So we're working on that and we'll have that for you at this time. Okay, something else, and I'm going to be frank. And the point is that, here through public comments, you all been getting some emails on our waste management. And I know we had an event that was probably something you have not seen in a long time, which magnified a lot of the issues. So much that you would think that the United States Post Office, in their motto of being able to go no matter what it was, I did not get mail for 4 days. I'm okay with that because that means I didn't get no bills. So I'm okay with that. But nevertheless, when something like of this major happens, it does create some problems. And we had a conversation, a very healthy conversation, my staff and I, with Republic. We laid our cards out on the table. We made sure that they understood that the level of expectation of services that the city deserves and we will require. There were some questions posed to them by you all, and I'm gonna take the blame for this, not giving it to you right now, but I will make sure I get this to you. But some of the questions that were asked by this council, and we can talk later about this later on during discussion, I think one of the questions you all asked was, could the tracking come in play? And I'm going to tell you that in talking with them, the tracking comes online on the 13th of February. I think that will be Thursday, where it's going to go online. So you, using the app, should be able to see where the truck is. And Devin, please chime in if I miss out on something here. But through your app, you will be able to look at and see where your truck is, what time you can expect them to be there. And they also have a mechanism in there to say that when they come pick up your trash, there are certain criteria things. Was it over full? Was it out? And was it to the curb where it's supposed to be, and where there's no other issues with it? Like you didn't have your car parked there in front of it. That's one of the other things and that's coming on the 13th. Some of the other questions you all had was that they are aware of some issues they've had. And they're also aware that this is a partnership, that we want to try to make it better on their end and on our end. We probably need to do a little bit more educating. I get that. Because when we tell people to take their trash and put it in bags, some will do it, some will not. But we still need to push that item to them to do that. There was one suggestion made from last year's council, Ms. Conway, who thought that maybe they can put stickers on those trash cans, let people know to bag your trash up. Not just for just regular trash, but also for recycling. You know, that makes it easy for them. So, and they were aware of some of the issues they have dealt with, which, you know, and what are they going to do now? And there are some things they're going to try to put in place. I know their operational group has got some things they're going to do, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit from that and timeline. So, in some of the responses, and I'll get this to you all. I will make sure I get this to you all. Again, I apologize for not having it to you at this point in time. Matt, who's the operational person who the question was asked, timeline is to be for the issues and what are you planning to do to moving forward. Matt and his operation team are using maps and overlays them to drivers' actual routes, ensuring that one, the route is sequenced correctly, and two, that the driver is running the route as it's supposed to be. And there are some others. They're doing some coaching with their drivers. And I have a conversation with Tim Ward once a month, and we bring up some things. And I asked the question to him. I said, you know, when they don't pick up something or they miss something, what are you all doing to make sure that don't happen? And on occasion, they do have a ride along with them to ensure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And there's others, like I said, but again, the main thing is this. They want to do business with us. And they understand that some of their effort going as of today is not what we expect. The citizens of this community expects better. And we made sure that that was clear to them. And they understood that. So, and we will be talking more with them. And again, we'll get you those updates to you all well before meetings so you can have it with that. And you will have an opportunity to ask questions per that. And we'll continue to get that. One other thing, we're going to schedule some updates with them. They're going to come in on a regular basis, and not just when something bad happens, but come here and be present. So if there's an issue, that's something that comes up that you all catch during the week, and they're here, maybe we can bring them to the podium so they can explain some issue with that going forward. All right? All right, next, you should have received a budget schedule by ordinance. It is, and this was done in 2005 by Mayor Varney, a schedule of what should happen in the budget process. And you have that. And just want to make sure that you have that in your possession, and that you see that February 17th is the first one, which is our regular finance meeting, and going down to the end. The main thing is this schedule follows a alignment that needs to be done, and again, it's by ordinance. So that is why we have that schedule. Next, you should have received a, excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you for telling me all that. Are there any conflicts? And if you have that with you, the schedule is written, and I could go to those if you want me to do that, but I don't need to do that. But you look at there, starting with the 17th with our meeting, but looking down to June 23rd, are there any schedule issues that you will have? And thank you, Emily, for bringing that to my attention. All right. I'll wait to see, make sure everybody got their calendars out and everything looks good to them.
I assume May the 27th is after Memorial Day. Is that a?
If I might say it, because I was at the meeting when we set these, we generally, that is a night, Memorial Day is the date that we have a council meeting, but we cancel that because it's on a holiday. But in order to get things in order in a timely manner for everyone to see it, we moved it Tuesday. And so it will be a special meeting and the Monday one will be canceled.
Okay. All right. Are we good? Is there any other questions or anybody's good with this? All right. Thank you. Next is the 2025 COLA for elected officials. This, again, is a state mandate, and that the Office of Administration, they do a formula which figures out our pay raise or whatever you want to call it each year. And, instead of us doing it every year and bringing it back for council to approve, in 2018, it was by ordinance that he did that. In my 2013. Thank you, ma'am. 2013, where they put it in an ordinance where once we get this from the state, then we automatically apply it. Okay? So that just brought to your attention from that. Is there any questions on that?
I have a question. In the past, a lot of times when preparing the budget, and it's a 2.9, that's what has been used to give to the employees as well. Have you considered that yet or not?
I have not. We have not got to that point right now to talk about it. And I'm sure that's something we will talk about when we get to our finance.
Thank you.
And then next is, we were talking about House Bill 253, the overview. And I've invited Mr. Scott Hall, who is our director for the Georgetown, Scott County Revenue, which I'm one of the commissioners of. And he is one of the best there is. I'm going to give him a little segue plug here because he does a good job. Because there's only really, and correct me if I'm not saying it correctly here, Mr. Hall, that there's 2 revenue commissions in the state of Kentucky. One in Louisville, and we have the other one.
Yes, sir.
And matter of fact, Mr. Hall worked for the one in Louisville before coming up here. And,
Yes.
And he has really done an outstanding job. And he came last year and gave an update on some things. And I'm going to say this here, that because of their efforts, last year was the highest collection of revenue in the history. It was
Yes.
around 64 million. Was that-
$63.7 million.
Man, I was close on that.
That's a $10.2 million increase over the prior year.
Wow. So that shows that what he's doing is good for us. And he's going to talk about House Bill 253. Emily sent to you all a kind of you should have with you she sent to you all by email what this bill represented and all the components of that. So, Mr. Hall, thank you.
Well, Honorable Mayor Jenkins, thank you for those kind words. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you so much.
I'll send you a bill.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
I'll get that right out to you. Also, Madam CAO, Madam City Manager, Madam City Clerk, and members of the council, thank you so much for inviting me tonight. It's my pleasure to be here. As Mayor Jenkins mentioned, we have a bill that's in the General Assembly right now. It's called House Bill 253. What I'm going to do tonight, just go over a brief overview. It's 4 pages long. I'm not going to read it to you. I'm just going to hit the high points. And then I also have some implications of this potential bill that I'd like to share with you from the Revenue Commission's perspective and some others' perspectives as well. The bill was filed on February 4th last week. I'm already hearing about possible proposed amendments. That's normal during a legislative session. Be advised, though, that what I say tonight might not be true in a few days or next week. So I'm going on based on what's out there right now. The sponsors for House Bill 253 are Jared Bauman and Rachel Rourks. Both are members of the Kentucky House of Representatives and both represent Louisville. So the bill has two sections. And again, I'm just going to hit the high points here. Section 1 talks about who shall do what. And so that's what I'm going to share with you. On or before 1/1/2028, the Office of the State Treasurer shall develop and maintain a web-based system for the centralized reporting, collection, and distribution of occupational license fees. Revenues collected by the system shall be distributed to the applicable local jurisdictions within 12 hours of receipt. The State Treasurer may impose an annual fee on businesses using the system to help offset the cost of the system's development and maintenance. Businesses shall not be mandated to use the system and shall continue to have the option to report and pay occupational license tax directly to local taxing jurisdictions. On the other hand, local taxing jurisdictions are mandated to participate in the system. Local taxing jurisdictions are mandated to cooperate fully with the State Treasurer in the development and implementation of the system. A universal template for businesses to use to report their occupational license fees and remit accompanying payment in the system will be created. Local taxing jurisdictions are mandated also to enact or amend any local ordinances necessary to allow the reporting and payment of the occupational license fees through the centralized system. Now, that's what is basically the structure of this bill. However, here's what the State Treasurer shall not be responsible for: auditing of local taxes, ensuring business compliance with local taxes, verifying occupational license fees paid by businesses, or issuing credits or refunds to the businesses. That will remain with us. Any questions about Section 1? All right, Section 2 talks about a working group that will be formed for this project. The State Treasurer shall appoint a working group to study the feasibility of the project and provide recommendations outlining an implementation plan and proposed budget for the centralized system. This will include a review of existing centralized systems for collecting local business taxes and fees currently in existence in other states. The working group shall be chaired by the State Treasurer or his or her designee and will be composed of the following representatives: 1 member of the Treasurer's staff, 2 members submitted by the Kentucky League of Cities, 2 members submitted by KACO, the Kentucky Association of Counties, 2 members submitted by the Kentucky Society of CPAs, 1 member submitted by the Kentucky Association of Manufacturers, 1 member submitted by the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, 1 member submitted by the Kentucky Association of Master Contractors, and finally 1 member submitted by the National Federation of Independent Business. So that's what the working group will consist of. Any questions on Section 2? Okay. So now we're going to talk about some of the implications from the Revenue Commission perspective and from the perspective of some others in local government. For our taxpayers, this legislation may negatively affect businesses within our communities. A centralized system could lead to confusion about where to file, as well as delays in processing refunds, which in turn could create cash flow issues for businesses that rely on timely reimbursements. Additionally, shifting tax collection away from local governments may result in decreased responsiveness to businesses from the State Treasurer's Office and a decline in the overall customer experience for both taxpayers and local officials. So what does that mean? Well, let me give you a real-world example. In our business, we don't get a lot of compliments. So when we do, it's a red-letter day. So on December 15, 2022, through our general email inbox, we got the following short email from a taxpayer. The subject line was business application. First, thank you for the info. Next, I want to tell someone, and may send a message to the mayor or whoever is suggested. I've been a contractor in Lexington for 37 years, and I must tell you, I'm so impressed with everyone I've dealt with this morning in your town. From building inspection, plus the inspectors, now you actually responding to me in a timely fashion, I'm very impressed with everything so far. Fayette County, I think, forgot a number of years ago that business brings in the revenue and builds things. You guys have all been so great to deal with, and therefore kudos and many thanks. That contractor with 37 years in business is not going to get that experience with centralized collection in Frankfort. That's one of the implications. Another thing that concerns us is the mandate of a universal template for business use, coupled with the mandate for jurisdictions to amend local ordinances, could potentially undermine longstanding local tax policy, like our $10,000 exemption for people 65 and older. So if you're 65 or older and you're still working a job, the first $10,000 that you earn is exempt from occupational tax. If you are a sole proprietor and you're 65 or older, you get the same $10,000 exemption on your net profit tax. Make no mistake, when you eliminate a tax exemption, you're raising someone's taxes. And with a universal template, one size fits all, coupled with a mandate for us to amend our ordinances to comply with that, we feel like that's a real potential danger. For our local governments, frankly, the state has a poor track record with state-managed collections. Don't take my word for it. As quoted in the Owensboro Times on February 5th, the day after this bill was filed, Owensboro's Director of Finance and Support Services, Angela Weininger, stated that, quote, the telecommunications tax, the personal property tax, and TIF activity are all areas where the state collects revenue on behalf of the city. The telecommunications tax never rolled out the way they said it would, and when they collect payments to the omitted tangible tax, they send us no information. They may collect the payments, but they send us no details. So we don't know which tax bills to apply those to. The Revenue Commission has very serious concerns about that very same issue here. Unfunded mandates. While the bill states that the cost of development, implementation, and maintenance of this centralized system will be borne by the businesses who will pay an annual fee to access the system, the reality is that there are numerous unfunded mandates contained in the language of this bill where local governments could incur significant direct and indirect costs associated with the centralized system. The most egregious example is what I previously mentioned in the bill overview. Local taxing jurisdictions are mandated to cooperate fully with the state treasurer in the development and implementation of the system. The broadly worded cooperate fully could mean almost anything, including but not limited to ad hoc direct costs, such as costly additional engagement with our current managed services providers, our banking resources, and our own website developers, while attempting to get our Revenue Commission systems to communicate directly with this system. There also is the possibility with cooperate fully that there will be indirect costs, such as Revenue Commission staff being redirected away from our normal tax administration functions for our community in order to cooperate fully with the development and implementation and maintenance of the centralized collection system. So at the Revenue Commission, we do want you to understand that we agree with the overall goal of this bill. We want to provide our taxpayers with business-friendly, occupational, tax compliance options. The Revenue Commission is not an entrenched government bureaucracy resistant to change. Quite the opposite, which is why at the Revenue Commission we've committed robust resources to modernize and digitize our processes. When a tax professional, business, or individual files and pays taxes at the Revenue Commission, everything that used to be done on paper can now be done 100% online. And if the taxpayer so chooses, they continue to pay in cash or a check or bring us a paper tax return. Every year, we set up appointments to help taxpayers. We'll even fill out their tax forms for them. But the online options are there. In fact, our online payment options have been in place for years. So where we differ with the proponents of House Bill 253 is in their proposed method to achieve their overall goal. Based on the language contained in House Bill 253, we don't think passage will lead to desirable outcomes for taxpayers or our local governments. Because with the wide array of online services that we now offer at the Revenue Commission, it's our opinion that for our community, House Bill 253 appears to be a solution in search of a problem. Now, any questions about any of that? I hit you with a lot.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the motivation for the state to do this?
You'd have to ask the bill sponsors. I think they would like to have control over what is, for most of us cities and counties that have occupational tax, it is the largest source of general fund revenue that we have. Big pot of money.
So it's a money grab.
The sponsors would tell you something different, but that's, as someone, I was on the KLC Board of Directors meeting call this morning, and somebody said, would you hand somebody your wallet and expect them to pay your bills?
I have a question too.
Yes, Ms.
Yes, go ahead.
Does there seem to be support behind it? And I was at the KLC training recently, and the members of KLC asked us to oppose it.
Yes.
So,
Well, there's a lot of opposition to it. As far as who supports it, I think who's on that working group that I mentioned are a lot of the people that probably support it and have pushed for it. I do not know these two representatives in Louisville. But I can share, I'm glad you brought that up, because I can share some other opposition as well, other than the Revenue Commission. The Kentucky League of Cities opposes this bill. As quoted in the Lexington Herald Leader, J.D. Cheney, Executive Director and CEO for the League, said that this organization straightforwardly opposes this bill. He framed it as government overreach. This bill is added government bureaucracy and will only complicate the process of collecting occupational taxes, a vital revenue source for cities that funds critical infrastructure such as emergency services like police and firefighters. Cities are the economic engine of Kentucky, and we will do everything we can to protect that engine from the unintended consequences of government overreach and expenses which this bill would create. Now, Mr. Cheney's not alone. Kentucky Association of Counties also opposes this bill. Also quoted in the Lexington Herald Leader, joining Cheney in opposition to the bill is Jim Henderson, Executive Director of KACO, Kentucky Association of Counties. He called the proposal costly, unproven, and potentially duplicative. Counties believe the most efficient form of government is local government. County officials are best positioned to understand and meet the needs of their taxpayers. Kentucky Occupational License Association opposes this bill. And the cities, our membership in COLA is cities, counties, and school boards statewide. Full disclosure, I've been a member of COLA for 16 years. I'm a past president of the organization, and I currently serve as COLA's representative on the Kentucky League of Cities Board of Directors. Our position statement, I think, sums it up. COLA strongly opposes House Bill 253, which proposes the centralization of local occupational license fees under the state treasury. Following careful review and deliberation, the COLA board has voted to formally oppose this measure due to significant concerns regarding its impact on local governments, businesses, and taxpayers. House Bill 253 introduces unnecessary inefficiencies and administrative burdens that would create confusion for businesses. Local governments rely on the timely and accurate distribution of occupational license fees to fund critical services. Centralization under the state treasury could disrupt this revenue flow, negatively affecting essential community services that depend on these funds. Additionally, businesses seek refunds or clarification on tax matters may face bureaucratic obstacles that do not currently exist in the present system. Finally, COLA urges policymakers to reject House Bill 253 and preserve the current local administration of the occupational license fee, which best serves the needs of Kentucky's businesses and communities. That was drafted by Amanda L. Baker. She is the COLA president for 2025. In addition to being an outstanding attorney, Amanda is also the executive director and secretary treasurer at Louisville Metro Revenue Commission. And when we were drafting this last week, she also shared with me on Friday that Louisville Metro government officially opposes House Bill 253. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Mr. Hall, first of all, thank you so much. As always, you bring us great information, and being a part of the Revenue Commission, Scott has brought this to us months ago that that he had heard rumors of this. I for one, just saying that, I know around about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to get an email, and it tells me how much money that they have collected on the behalf of the city, the county, and for the schools. They put on this sheet here, if you look at it, it says within 12 hours, the state going to do something within 12 hours. I'd like to see that happen, okay? But, so that being said, I think what we're looking at here is something that, that can be very, very, for us, be an issue and a problem. Mr. Mickey?
Yes, Mayor, having been a business lobbyist for a number of years and knowing all the players involved here, and basically the way government gets done, whether it's the way this is drafted or some form of that. One of the things I think that would be very important for us as a city council would be to take a position on this bill. And so I think we have a draft resolution in opposition to this bill that we could, and I would make a motion that we entertain that resolution, and also keep that in our back pocket and communicate to the relevant players that the position of this council to be able to weigh in on that. And then in our upcoming opportunities that we have with KLC at their lobbying day for local officials, we can utilize that. I know our local folks, our local legislators we've had conversations with them, but it's not enough to just have your local folks. It takes the entire legislative body. So.
Okay, motion has been made and properly second. Motion made by Mr. Minke, second made by Ms. Hambrick. Are there further questions and or comments? Yes, ma'am.
One more. Just kudos to your department. I am a small business owner, very small business owner. I have to pay to you 5 times a year, reports to you 5 times a year. I am not a CPA, but you make it so easy to do it. The forms are so easy to do. And doing some of the state things, doing them online that I have to do, if you have a question, it's forever for you to get an answer. And if you're like me and you wait to do everything at the last minute, then you're in trouble because you can't get an answer, or you can't get somebody to say, okay, bring it to us in the morning and we'll figure it out or help you. Right. And the state's just about ready to change their sales tax, how that's done online. You all know how I am in technology. I just got used to doing it that way and could figure it out. And now they've changed it all. Yep. And I'm in a limited window to get that done and then to get somebody to help you with it. So local is best. And even though I don't like paying taxes, whether small amount or big amount, local is still best. And I would hate to see this go to the state. It would be chaos if it went to the state. And it does sound like it's just a money grab with it.
Well, I appreciate your comments. That's music to my ears. You know, I've been doing this for 16 years, and I learned a long time ago, oddly enough for some people at the IRS, don't throw anything at me. Don't throw anything. You have to meet the taxpayer where they live.
Yeah.
And if they want to do paper, we'll handle paper. They want to bring us cash, we'll take their cash. If they want to write a check, we'll take their check. If they want to go online, and I tell you, you know, we didn't take credit cards when I first got here 8 years ago. And that was one of the first things I did. And the first year it was okay. I thought, yeah, well, some people using it. You don't know if they would have written a check anyway, but they just like the convenience of the credit card. For the fiscal year that ended June 30th of 2024, our online payments were $1.3 million. So clearly there was a barrier there that needed to be removed. And that is the most, and this is a globally accepted concept. Any country, anywhere in the world that administers any tax, the most cost-effective way to do it is to encourage voluntary compliance. And the best way to do that is remove barriers to that compliance.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? You've heard them.
All right, I need some clarification on the motion.
Okay. All right.
So is your intent that at a future meeting to bring a resolution forward? Or you want to-
Tonight.
Tonight? So if I can circulate this. So you
Okay,
will
yes,
see
ma'am.
it,
Go ahead.
You can read it, and then we'll have Tracy read it, so that everybody can hear.
Okay. And while she's doing that, once again, that information is out.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is this bill out of committee then? No. It's still in committee.
It's still in committee, last I heard,
Okay.
as of this morning.
And I've had conversation with all three local representatives. Representative of State Senator Nunn, Representative Hampton, excuse me, and also, I can't pronounce her name, Gassi. I'm ready to turn her name up. But anyway, had conversation with her and to let her know about how we feel on that. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to ask Madam Clerk if you would read that for us, please, ma'am.
A resolution of the City of Georgetown opposing any bills brought forth during the 2025 Kentucky General Assembly session by any member of the Kentucky Legislature in full or in part that provides for the centralized collection of local occupational fees, taxes by the Commonwealth of Kentucky or other third parties. Whereas under Section 181 of the Kentucky Constitution, the Commonwealth of Kentucky cannot impose or require a statewide occupational license fee tax for local purposes. And whereas many cities and counties across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, including the City of Georgetown, have enacted and imposed local occupational license requirements, and whereas the receipts affiliated with these funds are recorded in the city's general fund and allocated towards providing critical services, including police, fire, and emergency management services, public infrastructure improvements, and other critical programs and services to citizens, and whereas the city, through the Georgetown-Scott County Revenue Commission, provides clear, transparent, and efficient payment reporting services to those impacted by occupational license fees and taxes, which is best accomplished at the local level by professionals who have local experience and local knowledge of our communities, and whereas the city strongly believes that the centralized collection of local occupational license taxes and fees by the state or third party would be detrimental, ineffective, and would have a severely adverse effect on the fiscal condition and economic development of Georgetown, Kentucky, and all local government entities if mandated or implemented by the Kentucky General Assembly. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Georgetown, Kentucky, that the Georgetown City Council strongly opposes the adoption of any bills into law in whole or in part by the Kentucky General Assembly that provides for the centralized collection of local occupational license fees, taxes by the state or third party, and urges all members of the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Kentucky to vote against proposals of this nature. This resolution is read February 10th, 2025.
And if you approve it, that will be updated to say it was approved today, so.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, it was, motion was made, properly second, and question was asked. Is there any?
Mayor, I've got a question.
Yes.
How long has this been, have we been sitting on this? I noticed, and no offense, Mr. Minky, I noticed you had your copy before this meeting. Why wasn't the rest of us afforded that same opportunity?
Well,
Did you draft it?
No, I did not draft it. It, basically, framework is there from KLC as well as, and then, and I just asked them for that.
So, again, how long has this been sitting on the desk?
from my perspective, we just got this today, and correct me if I'm wrong, when we got that, go ahead, I'll let you answer that, because I'm,
Yeah, KLC, as they do with a lot of initiatives, we haven't historically adopted that many of them, but they will draft that and circulate it to their insured cities. That was shared with us, it's been a week or two, but now that the bill's filed, that's when the communication went out that the bill was filed and that cities would start taking positions. So Mr. Menke requested a copy. He said he emailed individually and asked if there was an opportunity to oppose it officially as a council, and the answer was yes, there's been a draft resolution. Resolutions are a legislative tool, so ultimately he, within his role as a council member, requested it.
Glad he did,
Yeah.
and I have no problem with that, but why wasn't this circulated before now? Hey, give us a heads up, hey, we're gonna oppose this, this is a potential that's coming.
Was waiting to hear from the council that they wanted to oppose it.
Okay.
and another thing with that is that, first of all, we're gonna make sure this gonna get traction. This bill is gonna be filed, everything, before we just put this in play. There's no sense of us trying to do something until it actually comes to play to us, and then from there, we know how to act. So that's where it went that way. Any other questions? Any other comments? You've heard the motion, properly made in second. No more other questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion has passed, and we will update this and get this out to them. Thank you again, Mr. Hall, for your
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
information.
It's always an honor and a pleasure to come before you and stand ready to do it anytime.
Next on the item here will be the committee reports. And we have finance.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The Finance Committee met in a special call Finance Committee meeting on January 28th, 2025 at the police station community room. All those of the Finance Committee were present, along with CAO, the City Attorney, and City Council Member Kim Minke. The first item on the agenda was to select a committee chair. It was motioned and then seconded that committee member Hampton serve as chair, and that was passed unanimously. Next thing we talked about was the regular meeting dates and times, which we've already discussed with you. Then we went over the minutes from the November 18th, 2024, since we had not had a meeting then. The mid-year budget amendment was discussed about some timing of, the meetings, and then also that department, we have received some department requests that we'll be going over. And then the sixth item, the budget meeting review schedule, we've rolled that out, and everyone has agreed to that. And then lastly, we had an investment review. Finance Director Clark went over our investments, and we adjourned at 5:45.
Thank you. Police?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the first Mondays of the month at 9 a.m. are the police committee meetings at the Police Department Community Room. So Karen and I are now on the police committee, and both for the first time. So we had our first meeting in February. Spent a lot of time getting to know each other and kind of our roles and responsibilities for these committees. That being providing for us to be advocates for the police department, as well as advocates for the council in that interaction, and be a good conduit of information and sharing and those kinds of things. The chief and his senior team provided us with an update of the 2024 activity that showed very, very good results. Basically broke down the stats for us in the areas of patrol, criminal investigation, traffic safety, community engagement, training, and the accomplishments of the police department. Even though there's a 10% increase in calls, most of the areas, burglaries have increased, but all the other major crime areas have decreased. So it shows good trends, and we dug a little deeper and looked at some trends across years, and again, very good results. So kudos to the police department there. But it also provided us with that opportunity to have a good discussion about how do you take that information and connect the dots of all the activities and the requests that come in and the activities that are being done and how that all fits together. And so it was a great discussion there. Just a good example of that, Karen asked a great question about the police in the traffic units posting up, at the edge of town, looking for speeding and things like that. And so it allowed us to have that opportunity to talk about where the significant crashes were and where their focus and how they applied all the tools that they have in their tool belt to be able to help reduce that. So it connected those dots of the investment that the prior council had made in increasing police staff and having a traffic unit, being able to then reduce speed, reduce crashes, and those kinds of things in our high probability areas. So some common questions, people had, we now can talk about why that's important. So again, I think that was a great opportunity for us to have that conversation and gain that additional understanding of what the police department is doing and why they're doing it that way. The other area that we did talk about is, as Greg mentioned, the financial, for the Finance Committee, the mid-year increase or adjustments to the budget. And so we did have an opportunity to talk about those areas and what they're looking for in terms of some additional 2 more officers, as well as some increased cost because of increased use, operational costs and those kinds of things. So we have some additional information. We're going to get some additional information even beyond that to help us as we have our conversations for the Finance Committee. Let's see. The other thing that we did, I did raise, and this is obviously because of the newspaper articles and things like that, there were the train derailment that they had in Sadieville, and there were some issues raised in the newspaper about communication and 911 and those kinds of things. So we were able to have those conversations and clarify that information, and there's some info coming back on that to improve our systems, reflect on those kinds of activities. And the last item that we raised had to do with the Angel program. I was not really familiar with that, and so whether or not there were any potential connections between that and the Narcan activity, or the NET device, I'm sorry, that's going on at the County Detention Center, if there were any partnerships or collaborations that could be done there to help our citizens there. So again, good discussion on synergies and those kinds of things, and I know I look forward to the next meeting.
All right, thank you, Mr. Minke. All right, next, item number 9 which is the Georgetown Municipal Water Sewer Service. Chase, if you come up, we're gonna talk about Eder Lane water line improvements, $80,050.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Just have the one item for your consideration tonight, and this is a bit out of the ordinary from our normal business, so I just put together a few quick slides to help us walk through. If we could go to the next slide, please. So I'll start with just a real quick history. Georgetown Municipal, we currently have a water infrastructure project underway. It's called the Southside Storage Tank and Distribution System Improvements, and that's ongoing. And this represents one of our major capital improvement program pieces that we have going on right now. And what it will do is it involves construction of water lines, new water mains in the vicinity. As you can see on your map, it's in the magenta lines with the magenta leaders. It's in the vicinity of Ironworks Road, Eder Lane, Paynes Depot Road, and McClellan Circle. So this project will involve kind of connecting a lot of lines within the southern part of the distribution network, southern part of the city and county. It's also going to involve construction of a new water storage tank somewhere on the southern side of the city or the county. Still looking at those locations. This project, it's going to have a couple of different major goals, but increase our level of service across the southern part of the city and county, and then also increase our stored water in the distribution network, which is it's mandated by regulatory, by that regulation. So it's going to help us on a number of fronts. It's not a new project. It's something I've presented to the board multiple times, presented this to council. I've even presented this to the fiscal court, and talked about the importance of this project, why it's part of why it's such a critical piece in our capital program. And this project, it was discussed in the end of 2022, beginning of 2023 as part of our rate discussion. So we go to the next slide, please. This project, just talk about the funding, and again, this is still kind of some history. It's funded through two different pieces. One is a $5 million line item grant through the state legislature that was secured a few years back by Senator Thayer. The funding is combined, that grant funding is combined with rate revenue through our rate structure, and it's factored into that rate structure that's there right now. And currently this project, it's underway. We're in the planning and preliminary design stages. So this project, it's very important, but it's also very complex in that we're doing this in conjunction, same time as two other critical pieces of our capital program. One is development of our distribution hydraulic model. A few years ago we did our sewer model. Now we're doing our drinking water system model. And we're also looking at long-term water supply solutions. And so this project is critical in that we do it with those two other efforts. And why I'm mentioning that is this project is it's a slow schedule in that we're being very methodical about this. A lot of things, a lot of moving parts have to fit together, and so it's not a fast-track project by any stretch of the imagination there. It's very important that we take this slow. So that brings us to today. What are we trying to do today? If we go to the next slide. We met with some of our customers on Ironworks Road as well as representatives of Bluegrass Baptist Church. Some of those customers have currently requested larger meter sizes, which we currently cannot facilitate because of the hydraulics of that part of the system. The church has requested service for their proposed new church campus that's in the same area off of Ironworks Pike, or Ironworks Road, the address being 2085 Ironworks. And the church is they're somewhere in the project design and permitting phase. And the new church, because of its size, it's going to require certain hydraulics level of service that currently with that infrastructure we cannot provide right now. So our Southside Tank project that I just described, it will enable us to provide that level of service that the church needs. What's the problem? This all sounds good. Problem is As I said, our Southside Tank project, it's going to take time to plan, design, and build. The church is moving forward, and they have a date by which they want to open their doors. That's the problem. I think they're shooting for June, July of 2026. We know that the Southside Tank project, it's not going to be done by then. So the solution that I'm proposing tonight, that the church and Georgetown Municipal Board, as well as staff that we've arrived at, is that what we want to do is pull a portion out of our larger Southside Tank project, pull part of that scope of work out, do it on a fast track right now, and expedite that work. And that's a smaller, separate effort. And so what that would be is we would, under that second project, we would complete the design and construction of about 3,800 linear feet of 12-inch line, and it connects 2 dead ends, as you can see in the magenta line here, 2 dead end lines, which yield bad hydraulics, on Eder Lane. And by completing this smaller piece at a very quick schedule, we can provide just this one part of the entire solution that gets the church what they need in order to move forward and hit their schedule and their timeline for opening the church. So, any questions there? I'll stop.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Does this get in the way of anyone else? Are you postponing someone else in order to
No,
take
ma'am.
care?
No, ma'am. This is not affected by like a wait list like our wastewater capacity. We go to the next slide, please. So when we break this work out, we create a second project, there is a cost in separating that work. And our engineer that's already under contract and working on the Southside Tank, they're going to have to essentially do, on certain parts of the work, their workload is going to double. Specifically, they create 2 sets of contract documents, 2 sets of bid documents, and they're managing 2 projects from a construction administration standpoint and a inspection standpoint. And those projects will be on different timeline. So we asked them to kind of value the delta there. What's that additional work going to be? And they've provided us a cost of $80,050, and that is where they have proposed. And I'm just saying now that would be a pass-through cost. And so if that cost comes in lower, that's great. If it comes in higher, that's great. But as it benefits the church, as we would treat any other customer we're trying to work with to help on a project that benefits them, they see benefit there, they need to have some skin in the game and pay that cost. The church, we've had many meetings, they've been to our board meeting, they see that value, and they're very agreeable to paying that amount and understanding that if it comes in lower, they'll see the savings. It's not anything that we're doing that we see a part of that. And if it comes in higher, they know that they've got more skin in the game and they're responsible for that. So that's where we are currently. We feel like this is the best solution. We always try to work with our customers, see if we can make something happen similar to our Pump Station 19, where we're partnering with somebody in the development community because we both benefit. We looked at that project last fall. This is similar. We try our best to work with our customers, see if we can come up with a solution, and the party that benefits is the party that shoulders the cost. So should you consider this and approve this tonight, we have a reimbursement agreement that we will execute with the church that gives them, they reimburse us the monthly expenses for this second project as we go. And I think that the schedule will work out that we can do the improvements that they need to get their level of service and open their project, open their doors when they want to.
Question here, so the $80,050, that is the engineering fee, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So are we paying that, or will the church, is that part of the reimbursement, or?
The $80,050 is what the church would reimburse us.
Okay.
We were already paying for the physical construction of this as part of our larger project.
Okay.
So we were already paying for that. I don't feel like that would be fair to assess that to a customer, where we're expediting it and we're seeing extra costs there on their behalf. That's the part we feel is fair to share in that cost.
So, by separating this project from the original what you had, the $80,000 is going to be the engineering fee that's going to be assessed for this, and we pay it, and then the church reimburses us. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
And that's outlined in that agreement that we'll execute.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion with to accept it with 3 comments.
Yes, ma'am.
One, that's another sign when government is local. You deal with the individual situation, as we were talking about before. Number 2, they're gonna reimburse us, so you're not out really anything except a little time that you had to work with them, so you're not out anything. And 3, I don't vote against the church. So, so I make the motion to accept the.
All right. Motion is made by, who that? Oh, Mr. Sams did. Okay, second by Mr. Minky. Are there further questions or comments? I think, Mr. Crisp, you want to say something?
Yeah, Chase, regarding the $80,050 allocation, can you provide any kind of clarity about the timeline of completion for the project?
Let me get back to you on that, and the only reason I don't want to say a timeline tonight, obviously, is we want to have the project designed, permitted, and constructed so the church is not delayed on their project at all. And the second part is I am weary these days of anything schedule related and throwing out a date is currently permitting of water and wastewater projects is incredibly difficult these days, just based on staffing levels at Kentucky Division of Water. And anything that I said right now, I would say subject to change, and I would, subject to change because I really have no idea. This is not a difficult permit. This is a very easy, simple project, the smaller piece, but those permit times for review and approval, they're all over the place.
Okay, I understand.
So
Thank you.
I can look into that and send you some updates if you'd like.
Yeah, and if you would do that, send it so I can get it out to everybody. Yeah. All right. Is there any other questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion for Eder Lane water line improvements for $80,050 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Next is item number 10, and the city attorney, Emily's going to come up, and of course, this municipal order where we're going to, Kentucky Kroger statewide opioid settlement opt-in.
So at the last meeting, I brought this information to you all that the Attorney General's office had settled a lawsuit, or there was a large-scale lawsuit with Kroger related to their participation in the opioid crisis, essentially. So I had brought information to you at the last meeting, and your wish based on that is that you wanted a municipal order tonight that essentially approves participation in that settlement so that we could receive settlement funds for local opioid abatement. So this is that municipal order approving participation in the settlement, authorizing the mayor to accept the funds, and also authorizing him to sign the documents that we would need to have those funds released to us. So if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer. But if not, nothing has changed since the update I brought you at the last meeting.
All right.
And the city has no other subject claims out there, right?
I don't believe so on this one.
Okay, at this time, there will be a motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Hambrick, second by Mr. Minky. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion, the municipal order, the Kentucky Kroger statewide opiate settlement opt-in, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Thank you, ma'am. Next, Georgetown Police Department is going to the municipal order for surplus vehicle donation. I think this, I'll let him come up, but I think this is talking about the truck or the vehicle we had that we're using, that you're going to actually donate to another agency. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's our armored bank vehicle. It's a 1991 model that was given to us or loaned to us several years ago. The repairs, it's just not worth keeping it. It's not really safe for us anymore. We have other vehicles to move our officers and equipment.
All right. You heard the request. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. Sams. Is there a second? Second made by Mr. Crisp. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion, the municipal order, surplus vehicle donation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Council discussion, old business, special events. This is something we've been ongoing, we talked about, and we've been on this, and we have been talking about this, so we'll talk about it some more, okay? So, and I know that some of you all have been in discussion on this, so at this time,
Mayor, if I could talk about what Tammy brought up earlier.
well, Ms. Hambrick, you may talk about that.
All right, thank you so much. We would like to bring forth an ordinance to be voted on at the next business meeting. We have listened well for the past 6 to 7 months, and Tammy and others have given input over the last couple of months of being on council. And we still invite everyone's input as we draft this. But here are the things that we suggest are in the ordinance. And I'm just going to read them so that you can know, and we can send these out to everybody so that you can give input. But all of Tracy's need for proper procedures and documentation, including proof of insurance and the $50 processing fee, should be included in the ordinance and be in place before submitting to City Council. Someone sponsoring the event should make the request in person at a council meeting so questions can be asked. No extra fees would be required or assessed. All civic-sponsored events as listed in the ordinance or approved by City Council should have first permission to close down Main Street pending council review, proper filing with Tracy, and council approval. All events will be subject to council approval, one event at a time. So we would hesitate to do group approvals. There should be a limit on how many events would be allowed per month. That would include closing Main Street. Personally, I would prefer no more than 2 unless they are civic-sponsored, tourism-sponsored events. If Main Street closure is necessary, the street should not be closed before 5:30 p.m. If the event unless again it's a city-sponsored event that, you know, Festival of the Horse, those kind of things. If, say, a race begins in the morning, the event should allow Main Street to open by 9 a.m. If more events come to council than our ordinance dictates, alternate places should be offered, including the pavilion and the county park, with the county's permission sought and granted. If an event is granted, the city needs to give all downtown businesses and the public a week's notice by means of signage downtown, listing in the local paper, listing on our city website or social media page, and each affected downtown business should receive electronic messaging by text, email, or another means suitable and agreeable to them. When Main Street is closed, food trucks should not be allowed near any restaurant. In front of the museum might be the best place for them, as well as in the back parking lot. If an event seems more appropriate to hold at the pavilion or the county park, like we talked about with a couple of the, I don't know what we called it, the county dances or whatever. Party on the Square. Yeah. The council should strongly consider approval only if the event sponsor agrees to that alternate space. Obviously, there would need to be lawyer legalese put into this ordinance. This is not meant to be a full draft. This is a working document. We invite input, but we are trying to be fair to both the citizens, to attracting people to downtown, but also to the businesses so that we don't interfere with their ability to carry on business, and also people who live downtown, so they can get their cars out on time and not be impeded. So this is what we're working with. We'll send it out. It's not finished by any means, but we need to get something in form of an ordinance and figure this out.
Let me ask you a question. Did you say that there will be no, just let them use the services and be done with it?
What do you mean?
And as far as, so you shut down Main Street and they have police and public works there, no fees will be assessed?
We don't feel like we should change the fee assessment as it is now.
So
Is that
they,
accurate, Tim? Yes.
so they get to use the city's resources and they don't pay a dime for it?
It would be basically what we're doing now. I mean, they would have insurance mean, that's how it's operating currently.
And we put this in there because we thought we reached that consensus last week, or last meeting, when we had the report that said how much money was spent. If we misunderstood that, we went over that, and then we factored out all the ones that were civic oriented.
It was a small amount.
It was a
The city
very small amount in the end. And we got the sense, and maybe we misread it, that that it was too small of an amount to create a sense that we were not easy to work with, or that we were, I'm not phrasing that correctly, so help me here.
Well, I think maybe one of the things is, I think there was some conversation about city-sponsored activities and then just other activities. And I think that certainly wasn't my understanding on both of those, that, there were certain things that we have done historically, and it was part of the city activity versus.
So you're saying that you think the civic activities should have no further fees, but the ones that are outside of the city-sponsored events, possibly there should be a fee assessed? Am I hearing you right?
Well, I think we need to look at that, and that was one of the things that we talked about in the police committee meeting as well, trying to get, a little bit better understanding of that. But I think some options there, but again, when we start looking at the actual cost, when you're talking overtime and those kinds of things, it could be a lot higher. And the ability to.
Did we not get those last time, though? Didn't we get a report on exactly how much it was?
Yeah, we saw how much they were.
We did, but I think when he's referring to the, and I'm speaking for you,
No.
Kim, I think when he's referring to the overtime, because we were talking in the police committee about how hard it is for them to feel for vacations, special events and things like that, and even though we can feel that, it may cause them then to have to use their overtime to take care of the rest of the city during that, and so that's the uncounted cost associated with that. So, because they're over, that was one of the things they say with their overtime, they've gone over budget this year. And so that was one of the questions we had. Well, how do we correct that, or what can we do to help correct that? And so by having the events, and they have officers here, they may be able to cover that, and it'd be that small amount that they're showing you on the table, but really it's costing more because they're forcing overtime with other officers to come in, so.
The unintended consequences.
Yeah.
I think we need to stop talking about it and get moving with it, because we're beating this horse silly. So
That's why we'd like to bring an ordinance next meeting.
pass
Up or
that to
down.
Emily, let her put her legalese on it and go for it. So.
Could I ask, because I've been a little confused on this since, I was sending everybody down the bottom of the hill because I thought we could. Could I ask Lori to explain the bottom of the hill as to how the pavilion's supposed to be used and what?
Yes, Lori, please come up, please. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Lori, I was sending everybody at the bottom of the hill.
That's okay. The Farmers Market Pavilion.
Yes.
So, okay, for anybody who wants to use it, they'll reach out to me, and I'll take a look at the dates that they're considering. And then I will send them to Tracy if the date is approved through our office. Because obviously many of them are probably going to need some help, specifically with getting vehicles out of the way on Fridays and Saturdays.
Right.
Friday's my biggest worry. I actually met with Officer Perkins today and Rob Bruin about how that would look and what we would need to do to make sure that we are getting those vehicles out and that the public is aware that they have to have them out by a certain time. But we would have to work in conjunction with Tracy. Tracy and I have talked about this before. It may be that we consider one application just for the pavilion itself. But obviously, we would only be approving dates. We would not be approving anything beyond that. That would be the council that would approve
So
it.
that way, if someone came here and they wanted Main Street and we decided, no, it wouldn't meet the criteria, or even if we put the fee on there, they don't want to pay the fee, then at that point in time, do we suggest them to go talk to you?
Yes,
And
but there will
then-
be a fee associated.
And how much, okay, what's your fee?
Okay, so the commission, and we have talked to Judge Covington about this and decided that nonprofits would be $250 and for-profit would be $500. We had not done our application as of yet because we were kind of waiting to see what the ordinance was going to bring, because we certainly didn't want to outprice, any nonprofits who wanted to have an event down there. So we wanted to make sure that it was nominal and not overdo it with, if you all were going to apply fees to police and fire and.
That sounds reasonable. So if you then approve them and say, yes, you can use the pavilion, then the notification comes back to Tracy, all the insurance, but does it come back to the council or not after that? It's all
Yeah,
done-
if they are in need of services, you all would have to approve it. So, and they're gonna need it. I mean, most likely, they are gonna
So you all
need,
approve it and then we approve it after you would
Yes.
approve it?
so
Okay.
I'm essentially just approving that the date is okay.
The date is okay.
And that they are agreeable to the requirements that we have set forth. But you all would absolutely be able to override that and say, you're not gonna be able to use the police or fire or public works or whatever they needed at the time, so. But they will definitely, any events down there is probably going to have some assistance from Public Works,
So,
and the police
another
department.
Third question then, okay, so if you're gonna charge a fee for using that down there, and yet we're talking about charging a fee for using up here, and what we're thinking about charging a fee for using what's up here to help offset a little bit of the cost to us, so the fee you're charging, where's that going?
It is actually going to go back into Celebrate Georgetown, so it will go back into marketing and promotions
It will
of
not go
events and
back
activities
into
downtown.
offsetting the cost, so the more people we send down there,
No,
we're not offsetting the cost of our
no,
facility.
no.
So we have to charge two fees, if we're talking about a fee. Okay.
So,
It will be for the day, your time period, just for one day. It won't be for multiple days if you're doing an event.
Excuse me, let me stop right now. Remember now, questions from the audience, please, if you got a question, someone, you can let us know about that later, but let's direct everything at this point here from council to you, okay? Thank you.
so, get this straight. We're gonna charge $500 to use the pavilion down at the bottom of the hill, and they get Main Street for nothing. You're gonna be out of money.
Well, actually, if you charge Lori with tourism, let's just pick the $500. They charge $500. Actually, for us sending them down there, but they're still using our services, they would be better off going down there because they're only paying one fee, they're not paying, and we're not getting the fee for the service, so it's almost like we should be charging, tourism should have a fee for them down there, and we should have a fee for them down there if they're gonna use our services. So it's almost like if our services are involved in the pavilion in any form, shape, or fashion, if we're even talking about putting a fee for using Main Street, if it's not civic, then, or city sponsored, then there should be two fees down there. One for you all, one for us. I know, just charge them everything. But-
All right, okay, so.
Is that all you needed from me?
Could I ask a question?
Yes, you may, go ahead.
Lori, one of the things that we did put in here that's rather complicated is the communication when we close Main Street. And so when the language that Willow and I put down has a whole lot of hoops to jump through, and that probably would be better communicated by you have those mechanisms set up. Would that be a problem if part of this said, once we agree to it, then Tracy lets you know that it's been agreed to, and then, you
Yes.
took care of that.
So, our downtown businesses, we have a private social media page. There's about 84 representatives in that page. So anytime that we know of street closures, we put it on there. In addition, we have constant contacts where we can email the information out to. I believe Emily and I have talked about looking at the system that the city has that can do the text messaging.
Yeah.
And if that was available, would we be able to use that for the downtown businesses too, so that they could also get it via text?
So do you also put the information in the newspaper?
We do not do that. We do not put it in the newspaper. The organization has to put it in the newspaper. And they can do that for free on the calendar of events.
So
But it is
some
on
of the
our
responsibility
website.
would still be ours to advertise.
We do also add that date to our website too, if there are any
Okay.
events that we're aware of that goes on the website. So along with that, not just on the, I should say, not only on the private Celebrate page, but that also goes on to our public pages, which would be Celebrate Georgetown, the local page that is for the public, and it would also be on the tourism page in addition.
So if we are actually wanting to charge a fee to recoup some of our time, then actually, if we say you use the city streets of Georgetown, that we're gonna allow you to do that, then we should be charging, based on what you're giving us, we should be charging $500 for a nonprofit, we should be charging $1,000 for a for-profit. Then that way, let's say, or if we're not gonna approve this, you can go down the Baldwin Hill, go talk to Lori. Then you have a different fee, because we still have to charge if our officers and fire department and public works is gonna be used. But then we can make the fee less, say $250 if they're a nonprofit, which equals $500 between the two of us, so that'd be the same as up here, and then say $500, match your $500, and that'd be the same as whether you're gonna be up here or not. Because we can't say, no, go to the box if we're still using our police, if we're gonna put a price in there. So,
And I want to say, I might be outnumbered here, but I feel like it is a service to our citizens, and that we should remain the way we're doing it now, that we need to be a city that is open to tourism. It brings in a great amount of money that we see, and that it is too little of an amount that we're spending on services. And our police chief said that the officers are happy to do it. That I just feel like it's a service. The people that are coming to our events expect to be safe, and they expect for the place to be clean, and that we don't charge extra money to them. That's just my opinion, and I may be outnumbered, so.
Mr. Mayor.
Straw vote.
Okay, just maybe before we do that, Mr. Chris, do you have a question?
Yeah,
or
actually,
comment?
a couple things,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor. First off, we happen to have Rebecca and James Maupin, owners of Desserts by Rebecca. I'm sure a lot of folks in the gallery are familiar with their work. It's amazing. And they happen to have perhaps one of the top 2 or 3 high-traffic downtown businesses on Main Street. So if anybody on council or Mr. Mayor, if you have any questions or comments for them or would like their insight, they might be able to assist tonight too.
Okay, well, we'll keep that in mind.
We
Okay.
also have a retail too, Risa Browning, who owns Seeds and Saplings, who's also here if you have any questions. I was going to make reference to one of the things that you mentioned. The majority of the people who are coming and asking for these closures are nonprofit. They are not for profit. The ones that are generally coming, it's Elizabeth's Village for their night market, which is an excellent fundraiser for them. I'm trying to think of some of the others that have been downtown. The car show, they are a nonprofit. What the money that they make, they have given donations to the fire department for Toys for Tots. They've given it to the police department, so they're also a nonprofit. I believe there's also a church who has done an event downtown, and they have used that as a fundraiser for some of their programs.
Some of the races too.
Yes, many of the races are nonprofit also. So I would just ask that you keep that in mind. We definitely don't want to price them out, and that's why I was very concerned about what our fee would be, because we definitely didn't want to have too much piled on to where those wonderful events did not take place, or nonprofits that were using them to raise money for a lot of good for our community, that they would kind of go to the wayside because they couldn't afford it.
So just with what's proposed, just with the things I've put out there, so the max for a nonprofit would be $500, whether it was down the hill or on Main Street, would be $500.
All right, Mr. Stone?
If we're not looking at changing what we're doing now, then why are we talking? Let's just end this conversation, be done with it, and move on to the next one. Because, I mean, what you all described is what we're doing now.
Not really. We've got some time limitations that are in here. We've got some limitations of how many per month. We've got no food trucks in front of restaurants, which we've had in the past, that has been a problem for some of our restaurant owners. So we've got an increase in communications.
We can add those 3 things, or 4 things in there, and just,
It was
We're
my
going-
understanding that when this was brought forward, I believe, Emily, did you say that we needed to tighten up some of the, so that it was a clearer?
Let me bring it up.
Okay, sorry.
All right. You got a question? Go ahead.
It was my understanding, I know that you all have been talking about this for months, but I've just been here for 2 council meetings. This is the 3rd. And so when it was brought, when I first heard about it, it was presented in a way that we had problems and we were looking to come up with some rules and tighten up the policy. And that's what this is about. Not to change it, not to throw it out, but to tighten up so that we didn't have to make different decisions, that we made consistent decisions, that where we could talk about the problems and come up with a solution and incorporate that into some sort of ordinance, so that every time we had an event, we didn't have to think, what's this gonna do, and so forth. And you're right, if you've talked about it for 6 months before this we've talked about it enough since I've been here.
Yeah.
But to come to a conclusion that, let's put something on paper and then vote it up or down, and then move on. Yeah.
Pass what y'all got written down,
Well,
Emily.
the biggest problem
And let's
with
go
your
with it.
suggestion, you're settling it. The biggest problem that had was too many events closing down Main Street too often with too many events, especially.
And the food trucks.
Especially monthly. And I hadn't heard food truck, but I thought that was a good idea when you brought that up. Actually, I wouldn't want a food truck right in front of my business if that's not if that was my business, against my business. So I get that 100%. So those are 2 things that you're selling, whether we fee or not fee. We can take a straw poll, figure out whether we're gonna do a small fee or we're not gonna do a small fee, and then move on with the rest of what you said. But the biggest problem we had, too many events, and I think they will probably agree with me, too many events.
And the closing times.
And communication.
And communication.
All right. Yes, go ahead.
Want to add to that point, because I think that hanging piece is the policy decision of whether to assess the fee to recover some of those costs or not. So I know that spreadsheet that was provided at the last meeting, it did account for overtime costs, but of course, that's plus or minus, right? We're asking these people to calculate all of this after the fact based on the officers assigned and other resources assigned. So another hybrid option could be, since it sounds like there's a pool who wants to recover the cost and a pool who doesn't, knowing that a lot of it, they're civic-sponsored events anyways, and we're going to put that bill regardless. But the council could build into the ordinance like a reporting mechanism that would require the mayor to give maybe like an annual report on how much was how much funding was expended on those private events, because I think it's going to be very interesting too to know how many events are approved now that it's not just Main Street that's an availability subject to the ordinance. There's this pavilion. So if the pavilion's getting this super high traffic and you're approving event after event after event, that's a lot of resources that's an unknown. So if you write in that reporting mechanism, then the council has an annual update and can see, hey, this is a bigger problem now. It used to be $25,000 a year, but now it's X thousand dollars a year and we need to adjust this. So that's just an option if the council would want to kind of pilot it and require those reports by the mayor. You could build that into.
That's a
require
great idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
May I make a comment about
Yes.
the food trucks in front of local restaurants? So for the concert series, we avoid that because we are able to. For the festival, on the other hand, that is very hard to do
that's a
because we
separate category.
only have
Yeah.
so many poles that have 220 electric. So we offer up, just so you all are aware, every business downtown, retail or restaurant, has the opportunity to have the space in front of them first at a discounted rate. Always. They always get first opportunity for that. And Rebecca's always takes advantage of that spot right in front of her place, of her bakery. So, we encourage them to come out because we do think it is a great source of revenue for them to be able to be outside of their business plus inside their business. But because of our electric grid and the way we've got the 220 set up, sometimes that's the only place I can put them. I actually met with Rob today and Jason Wright, who's the guru of electricity downtown, because we've had some instances where we've had some shut off, shut on, and that was because I was trying to avoid putting a food truck in front of a restaurant that was not participating in the festival. So it really jammed up the grid that's coming from Broadway and Main to Hamilton, or actually right here to the square on this side, because I don't have 220, so I'm having to pull it and pull wires or cords from right across the street over by Galvin's down to here, and then from the back half to get enough electric in that grid. Where we were talking about it today, and Jason's like, with all the trouble that we've had, I think the best case scenario is, Lori, you're going to have to move some of your food trucks into where those 220 poles are. So that would be, just so you know, we try to avoid that, but we had a terrible, terrible time the last few years, and I think we're at the point that, we're going to do our best. We're always going to offer up the front of the restaurants to them and to all of our local businesses who want to do that. But there may be times that there is a food truck there just because. I will say, though, we try to make sure that it is not in front of their front door. If it has to go there, we're going to leave the front door, but it might be retail that is going to be in front of them, and the food truck kind of scooched over to the side. But that's always our goal, because our local businesses that actually have brick and mortar businesses downtown, they are always going to be our first priority. They have to be seen, they have to make money if we want to downtown to be flourishing and thriving, and we want to see them next year, so.
You did say just for the Festival of the Horse, didn't you? That there was an exception? Or was it-
All of the civic events are special categories were.
But for the food truck part of it?
For the
you said
food truck part, yeah.
Festival
And
of
I've got
Horse, you
an
mentioned it.
exception for festival.
Okay.
But if you all have any questions for, a couple of our downtown businesses as to, what they feel is needed for downtown, feel free. I'm sure that they would be willing to answer, well, maybe not, answer questions if you all needed some clarity on, the purpose of the ordinance and how they envision it would help them.
And they are welcome to send those questions to me. If you don't want to speak here, we can always just send them to me, and we'll try to get some answers for you here. We'll share with them and get those for you, okay?
If you've got some, I'll filter them to them. If you've got more specific
Yep.
Questions that you would like to
I would
ask.
love to know how they feel about a fee, is that a hindrance to downtown for us adding the fee to recouping a little bit of our employees or not?
Okay.
Let me know.
Do you want to respond? If you're comfortable.
Mr. Mayor has to call you.
Yeah, go ahead, ma'am. Go
We've
ahead.
kind of been organizing ourselves and, trying to come up with some consensus as well. And we've met now 3 times ourselves over the past couple of months. And we, for the most part, like the idea of a fee because we felt like it legitimized an event big enough to close the street, quite honestly. And also kind of as a protection, maybe something that we haven't been thinking about is that if I actually have some event history as well. As an event organizer, I could come to you, and while I would have the insurance and pay the $50 fee and do all the things that are required, I might not give full disclosure on exactly what I'm doing. So if I'm having something, I might be charging an entry into my event. It might be more for personal profit. So I kind of like it as a protection of what we already have downtown, but I don't want there to be so many hoops, or we, hopefully, there to be so many hoops that we can't think outside the box. We have such an incredible downtown and incredible city, and we want to be able to think outside the box and bring in more fun and get our own citizens and visitors to really buy into what is so great about downtown Georgetown. So, oh, and one other little thing that I thought of when there was some discussion is that notice needs to not just be to the businesses, but also to residents and to building owners, just FYI.
Thank you.
Residents in.
Building owners.
All right, okay. Is there any more on special events that you want to talk about?
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
One quick thing, Mr. Mayor. Before the meeting, I received a really brief text from David Miller. He owns Chinkapin with his wife, Chinkapin Brewing downtown, and he wanted to convey this. He says, "I find that the downtown events are beneficial for our business. We welcome them. My concerns would be that moving events to the pavilion might reduce the interaction with downtown businesses and would reduce the amount of available parking for customers and those coming to the event." So he just wanted to add that to the discussion, and he appreciates that. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, one more thing. I did get someone who wanted to come tonight to do public comments but was sick and could not make it, sent me a little thing to say, asked me if I would say this. She has a unique perspective. It's Kitty Dogood. Many of you know her. She used to work on Main Street, and she runs the Main Street program for the state. And she's also a resident on Main Street. And many of the things that we've talked about tonight, she said that as well. She is one who mentioned putting the food trucks on the south side of the street, because there, with the exception of Rebecca's, there aren't restaurants on that side. Didn't know about the electrical, so, but she said many of the things, she wanted to offer many of the things too, but wanted to express how important it was to have the events downtown and to keep them downtown, because a city is known for their Main Street and their downtown. She just wanted to make sure that that was heard and couldn't make it tonight, so thank you.
All righty. Okay. So are we good with the special events? We'll look at this and we'll make some adjustments to this, and we'll give it to our staff to look at and see what we can come up with applicable, and go from there. I don't know if the idea is to just work on this and come up with a draft for the next meeting. Is that what we're doing here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just want to make sure I was clear on hearing that. So next is solid waste collection. Again, I mentioned a little bit this earlier with that. I'm going to take the blame for that and not getting you the information for you beforehand time, but I will do better with that. But one thing I do want to say in talking with them on that, couple of things, and I'll let you all discuss some more of this from what you have heard and so on. One of the things that in talking with Republic was that I think one of the questions was, when people call in, how you get recordings, and are you monitoring that and so on. So from that, it said operations will review daily the service recordings for the area to try to find any consistencies. I guess that would mean that if we're getting 20 calls from Elkhorn Green,
Right.
then what is the problem with at Elkhorn Green? So they know that that's a problem area to which they're going to concern with. Okay, but that being said, I'll let you all, and we're open for discussion on this. This has been something that we're working on. We continue to work on going forward. Again, we in our meeting was a very promising meeting, and again, they want to make sure that this is a partnership. They want to work to do better. They understand what the service they're providing right now could be better. So I'll leave it to you all to talk from there.
Mayor, just one question. When the discussions under Mayor Prather, when the discussions were brought about going to a privatized trash service, Greg Hampton and I were on Public Works Committee, and we were involved in those discussions. You had a meeting the other day. How come Sanjay and I wasn't included in that meeting, being on Public Works Committee?
Well, that's the meeting that's going to be on me. I made that call to do that, to have the meeting with them directly to do that.
Okay.
And then from that meeting, then we will let you all know before we find out. It's nothing against putting you all there, but we thought that we wanted to talk with them directly from the questions that was brought from council to get that answer. So that's going to be on me to make that decision, and that's what I did.
Okay.
Mayor, when I was on council before and Republic had just started, they did come regularly to council meetings and give updates. And you
Yes,
mentioned that.
we-
Do you know when that
No, we
started?
have not stopped scheduling that, and
Okay.
we are going to get back with them and get those and see what works with them.
It's nice to have them in front
Yes.
of us and to,
Right.
yeah, thank you.
Okay?
So, Mr. Mayor, on the sanitation, we have received some emails. The council's received some emails about it. And then I received some phone calls.
Mhm.
Some people say it's hard to actually email us the way it's set up, and they're like me, they're technology challenged, and they don't like it when Microsoft tells you have to go elsewhere. But nevertheless, on that, so you're talking about that they're going to do some like the apps and things like that. Well, our older citizens, like me, don't like apps, don't use apps and things like that. So they're at a disadvantage. And then when they call Republic, they're put on hold for quite a long time. So I'm glad that you had a meeting with them, and it would have been nice that some of the council members had been there or brought them here. So, and yes, we would have bombarded them with issues if they'd been brought here. But on the flip side of it, so they acknowledge that they're not doing properly, but what have they given you for their plan of action of how they're going to correct this?
Again, some of the things that they're working on, they're still working on. I mean, when we got some of this information back, a couple of the people were still out, and they were still working on that. So there'll be some questions that you all asked that we'll have to get more information on when they get back. But I will promise that we'll get that information to you as soon as possible. I think one of the questions I think were asked was about, and I think, Mr. Stone, I think you asked that question last time about, do you think there, or maybe you, Mr. Mankey, was that about, do you think that what the service, our service area, are they allow enough resources? And to be frankly, they used to use 3 trucks. Now they got 4 trucks. And they do have an avenue to where if something was to happen, like an emergency, and they need to call in more resources, they can do that. They can bring another truck in from either Cynthiana or even from Lexington or from other places located there. And I think they used the term that Cynthiana would be the first one because they were close, and once it's done, if we are having an issue, like say somebody said, we need to go back and pick up area of Elkhorn Green. So that truck, once they get finished there, will come and facilitate that and help out, okay?
It seems like that is one of their big problems that they are having is, one of the ladies that she came to the shop, but she was telling me that she lived on Payne, and they went by and they picked up Popular, and she's on the corner there, and so they missed Payne Street and then didn't come back. I mean, they were right there because the 2 intersect. To get that, they had to intersect. So that does seem to be a huge problem that they're doing is like their truck gets full, whatever the situation is, truck gets full and they're gone, and they don't come back to that area. So you actually amazed me when you said they have 4 trucks here working, that they can't seem to still get the quadrant
I think one
Done.
of the issues they were talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong there, Devin, there, but I think, I guess going out to the station where they drop the road and coming back, and they are aware that there have been instances where the driver may not pick up where they left off. That has been an issue. And we have addressed that with them, says, there's gotta be some way of communicating to let that driver know that, hey, I left off at 1122 Choctaw Trail. This is where I left off. I'm gonna go drop off, dump it, and I'm coming back. And they should be able to come back and put that exactly where they left off.
Absolutely.
And
On
that,
the
and
day
that,
of.
yeah, and correct, that, they are aware of that, and I think that's something we have brought to their attention, that was some concerns from this council as well as some citizens of this sparingly missed parts, where 3 or 4 houses is done, they go drop off, they come back, and maybe they'll start maybe 2 other houses down instead of starting where they actually dropped off. But that's an area of concern, and that we'll continue to address with them, and hopefully they'll come up with something to make sure that they're supposed to be able to, with the truck, be able to actually have on a camera exactly where they left off.
Well, you would think a company the size that they are, because they're like, one of the biggest, second largest, maybe third largest in the United States.
Yes, they are.
I read that they do Las Vegas, but they can't do Georgetown, Kentucky, and get our trash picked up. So, but if they're gonna tell the citizens, oh, here's an app, you need to get on the app, you'll know where we're at, we'll know all this. Are you kidding me? I'm supposed to get on the app, but yet you don't have an app to tell you what trash you just picked up and didn't pick up? So I just don't get the company, the size that it is, and all that it's having after, 3 years, we're into third year, that they're still having these issues. It's getting a little tiresome for the citizens.
And I understand that, and again, I don't have all the answers, okay? But I am working to get those answers to where we can get that done. And I know, and I agree, there's a lot, it gets to a point that you run out of excuses to tell the public, and I get that. But we are working with them to make sure that they understand some of the areas of concern, and that they're going to work to get that taken care of, and we'll get that communicated back with them. And again, they will come in and actually be able to be here in attendance on some meetings. And even though they may be here and not have an update for you, but by them being here, if there's a question or something that comes up that maybe we can bring them up, they can talk with that at that particular time. But we are working feverishly to get that done, and so that's where we are. Okay? Yes, sir.
Mayor, I appreciate what you're doing to try and resolve the issues and meeting with them and things like that. From a business perspective, though, I think accountability is to the customer,
right, is
paramount, and communication obviously is one of the most significant problems here. So I would suggest that we give them the opportunity and the floor to be able to talk through those issues and hopefully be able to provide timelines and solutions and things like that to the council that then can be transmitted, to the community as well. But that lack of transparency, of identifying problems and what they're doing about it, I think is the root of all of this. Because in my following, watching in my neighborhood, following some trucks that I've had the opportunity to be behind, the process that they have when it's running correctly is very good. There's things that we can do as citizens, but there's things that they need to be doing. And obviously from the emails that we have received, it's not working the way it was supposed to. So the recognition of that, it just needs to be laid out, and that would do them a world of good to be able to come and have that conversation with us. The sooner the better.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion on this issue? All right. is at the time, we have new business. Anybody got something new they want to bring up?
It's new, but it's old. We've already talked about it on the agenda. Are you sending on the House bill that we talked about earlier, are you sending a letter along with the resolution to, you said you had the conversation, but a letter to our representatives and to our senator on that? I think probably, we got an inroads with Tony, but I still think it needs to be formally done from the mayor's office.
Yeah, we can do that.
Resolution to do that.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
okay.
Yes, I will make sure that they know how we feel, and I think they're waiting on that. Okay.
Well, and Mayor, it shouldn't be just to our local folks, it should be to leadership as well.
Okay.
Because again, it puts it on notice, and it also then allows us to do that in conjunction with KLC as well.
Right, and KLC, once that's signed by the mayor, we'll submit it to KLC because they'll have, compiled all the cities that they represent that are opposing the bill. So we'll submit that to them in addition to, that personal touch to our folks and beyond, so.
Yeah, the personal touch that the mayor of the fastest growing city in Kentucky is opposed to it has weight to it, so I would love to see that done.
Okay. All righty. Okay, at this time, is there any other new business that anyone needs to bring to this council?
I don't know if you consider this new business, but I had asked maybe a couple of months ago about the training center, the training center that the fire department had, getting a plaque. Did you ever?
You know what? You may have told me that, and that's probably on me.
I mean, it's been about, because I.
Well, then, you may have to tell me that again. I may have to get back on that
I gave you
again.
a little something to go by.
You want a plaque for?
Yeah, for where we,
You want a dedication service? Is that what you-
Dedication.
Ah,
Thank
yes.
you.
So
With the-
I will put that down to do a dedication service. And again, my
With the-
apologies to that.
The council members that, were part of that.
Okay.
It's something like a police department, if that's considered new business, but you should have my information.
Okay. All right, I will get that back, and I think Devin is writing that down for me, so she will make sure I don't miscue that. Because sometimes, when you're as young as me, sometimes it slides over. So, all right, is there any other business? At this time, we have council comments, and I'm gonna start this time with Mr. Stone.
I got nothing, thank you, sir.
Okay, and I'll go with Ms. Mitchell,
All good, thank you.
Mr. Hampton,
I'm good, thank you.
Ms. Brent.
I'm good, thank you.
This is scary. Yes, Ms. Abbott.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a good joint meeting with fiscal court about economic development, and it was a quite, I thought, edifying and very interesting hearing. And Kim was there, and I believe Michael was there as well. Hearing all about the perspective of what we can do as a city to continue to have economic development. And the thing that was a theme for both fiscal court comments and city council members was, if we expect to have economic development, we have to do better with housing, with low-cost housing. And so that is going to be an area of emphasis. And I hope that we can find creative ways to do that. There was also, I think, is she supposed to come annually to do the needle exchange, Wedco? Crystal, Dr. Miller came, and she gave some really positive statistics about the efficacy and the benefit of the needle exchange program with all of the wraparound services of counseling and Narcan availability and the Angel program, and so it was very edifying and very good. The other thing is I'm a little concerned about the 30-day deadline for coming up, where we might again be faced with the hold on all grants, federal grants and loans. And I don't think as a council that we can ignore the possibility that we are going to be under that stricture. There's shifting sand, and I think we have a great committee. Tammy and Greg, I know, have probably been talking about this, but it can affect our water company, it can affect our police, It can affect our fire. It can affect a lot of things. And I know that Devin and Emily sent out a chart to all of us, giving us an indication of just how many millions of dollars we might have to have a contingency budget if these things get put into place. What are we willing to dip into our regular funds that the funding for the grants that Karen's working so hard to get? This could be Lexus Way. This could be the West Main Street program. We had many things on there. Chase is nodding his head. Many things that our water department is doing that is federal grant and loan. It is a serious situation if, when that 30 days is up, we only have a 30-day pause for this. It can affect almost every aspect of our city. So I want to make sure we're all paying attention to that. I suspect we are, but it's of particular concern. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Menke?
Just one request, Mayor. As we begin to utilize the pavilion and kind of get City Hall back into operation, hopefully very, very soon, is there an opportunity for our, especially our new council folks that have not had the opportunity to see what's really going on over there, the changes that are being made, and what the opportunities may be maybe for additional public facilities? You know, when I think about the pavilion and I look down there, there are no restrooms down there. And so how do we deal with all of those issues, and whether or not there may be opportunities to be able to have some limited access, you know, for the public, you know, in City Hall, maybe in the basement or somewhere. I don't know what's there and what's even possible, but trying to think about those down the road things. So just being able to go in and maybe get that hard hat tour of progress, where we are, and kind of what we can expect.
And what you can do on that is that if you're interested in that, you let me know, but there will be a waiver that you have to assign.
Sure.
No, excuse me, I'm sorry. Correct me here. Yeah, we'll organize it. Okay, there you go. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Thank you. All right.
That's all, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good discussion, Mayor. I like having the council having discussion, and I want to thank the public for the emails that we have received on the sanitation. It is definitely an issue that's on everybody's mind, and so appreciate the discussion on it, and hopefully you can get them to come to the table to do a better job, but well, we'll see about that, but I'm rooting for you to do that.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor.
All right, next, Mr. Crisp. Last but not least.
Thank you, Mayor. In light of the expected weather tomorrow, I just want everybody to stay safe, and if you haven't already, be sure to get your milk and your bread. And most importantly, your eggs.
All right. If there's no other business to be conducted by this council, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.